What's all the Omnifuss about then?
Hello, I love that. Ooh, what's all the Omnifuss about? Yes, thanks everyone for joining us on this first issue, I suppose. If you were a fan of Comic Airwaves back in the day, you will know exactly what all the Omnifuss is about. But for tonight, we're going to tell you again, and this time I'm joined by some friends and joined by Comic Bound.
How's it going? Hello, everyone.
I'm joined by Highland G as well.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
So tonight's plan, anyway, it's going to be fairly casual, fairly simple. It's more like a hangout between friends and you guys in the chat as well. We're going to be discussing some pickups, some recent reads, and having a look at some kind of pre-orders and books coming out within the next month. So fairly casual, fairly simple. So kick back, have a drink, because we are, and relax. And as Highland G says, let's do this. Okay. I will just check who is in the chat. First of all, we have a couple joining us already. We have Scott from Scott's Shelf. And if you don't know, that voice from what's all the Omnifuss, that may well be Scott.
I have heard rumours that it was in fact Scott.
We'll keep it at rumours.
We'll never know for sure.
We'll not confirm nor deny. We will just leave it at that. We have Triple G Comics. He's an evening chaps out for tea, so we'll join when I'm back in. Excellent. Skip tea, just watch us. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't skip my tea for us.
Just have your phone.
Yeah, Chris off my shelves here saying, hey, love the new logo, by the way, Chris. Loving that. And we have Lewis Deakins and Howdy Doody. And we have James from This Week in Metropolis and hey, guys. And the Comic Vet. What up, fam? I'm a fan of the Comic Vet. They're in the US. They go live pretty much after the Nerd Herd on the Wednesday night. So whatever the time difference is, it's like a perfect timing. We leave the Nerd Herd and I go and watch them guys. Good stuff. Right. So, like I say, fairly casual today with a few talking points. But we're going to start with what everyone's favorite thing is, really. I mean, haul videos are one of those things that people say, oh, I don't want to do a haul video, but I love them. I'm just so nosy. I love to see what people pick up. And I was delighted because being the first installment of this live and I wanted my own little corner of the Nerd Herd universe, and I was worried about filling at least 1 hour of content, I suppose. So Adam texted him today, says, Adam, do you have any pickups? Because he says, yes, he has a lot of pickups, but would need more than 1 hour. So I believe you've narrowed it down to your top 5.
I have a few. I don't know if it's 5. I haven't been that prepared today, so I didn't count 5, but there's a few. And I can always go and get more. It's just they're all over the place. So
I would just love to walk into your house, like in the hallway, boxes and boxes of books, in the kitchen, boxes and boxes of books, just pile up everywhere. Excellent. That's the way it should be. That's what we're all here for. Highland, do you have some pickups to show us as well?
Yeah, I've got a few books.
Excellent. And I have some too, so we'll have something to show off, which is good, and then that will get the conversation going. Which one of you guys wants to start? Do you want us to do the whole lot, or just one at a time?
I think one at a time, just because that'll give me a minute to like grab the next thing. Because, like I said, I'm not that organized today.
No, never mind. I meant to be hosting the show, but that's me all over. I wing it, make a film myself. But anyway, Adam, do you want to show us what your first pickup off the?
Sure. I'll just grab this one here because it's easiest, and it's actually quite light for such a heavy book, such a big book. But I bought the new compendium of the Turtles, the original series. I've never read any of the original Turtles. I've only read the IDW stuff, and I just couldn't. And this is really quite an expensive book for what it is, especially because it's black and white, which you'd think would bring down the printing costs quite a lot. But I couldn't not get it. So my first pickup. This and like I said, it's such a thick book, but it's super light. I don't know if it's just because of the type of paper they've got in it, but
it's a hardcover.
I haven't cracked it open yet. Yeah, hardcover, and I think it's got a dust jacket on. I haven't even opened it yet, but
it's called a compendium, isn't it?
Yeah, volume 1 as well, which means
it looks pretty big as well. So it's still oversized, like the other books.
Yeah. It's the same
so
size.
It's basically just like 2 or 3 books wide, but 1 book.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right about the price point. I from what I recall, when I was going through pre-orders a few months back, I eyeing that up, but it was so much more expensive, like your kind of standard omnibus. That was what was putting me off. Plus the fact it said volume 1, which obviously
Yes.
there's going to be a volume 2 at the same price. So yeah, I really wanted it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. But obviously, Adam, you did, which is excellent. I'm so jealous.
I'm a big Turtles fan with no self-control, so yeah, I had to. Yeah, I can't actually remember how much I pre-ordered it for either. It was so long ago when I did it, but I think it was probably close to like 90 quid or something, which is insane.
Yeah.
Sounds about right for their books though, because like IDW books are getting to about £60 or something, like retail price. Not that you actually pay that, but that's like the recommended retail price. So if you're getting 4 books worth of content, it kind of makes sense that that's going to be like 150, £180 book as far as RRP.
Yeah.
It is IDW publishing that, to take it. It is.
Yeah.
So there was oversized hardcovers previously. Like I've had like six books, I think, in total. But were they done by IDW as well?
I think so. They did them twice, didn't they? They did like the black and white, and they did like colorized ones that had like pizza box themed.
Yeah, the color ones were a bit more squared off. I don't know if they had like different content or were just presented differently, but the black and white ones were the traditional kind of shape.
Maybe it was just so they look more like a pizza box.
Like a pizza box, yeah. But then they must have had huge gutters then to allow for that.
I've never seen one, so I don't know if anyone else has ever seen one in the chat.
Yeah, I looked up a while ago and heard that like the actual build of the book wasn't all that great, so I never really looked into it much further. But if I was going to get it, I was going to go the color route. I just never went around to it.
See, I'm new to
I didn't know that was a hardcover. That's what kind of put me off that one.
Oh, really? See, that's the thing. It's called a compendium, and usually compendiums are softcover. So, but I've definitely seen it a while back being showcased somewhere, and it was hardcover, so I was surprised.
Because I just assume compendium is standard sized and a softcover, like in my head.
Yeah.
I don't think IDW know what a compendium is, because the Lock and Key Keyhouse compendium is the same. It's hardcover. It's oversized.
But then when you go Top Cow, it's the other way. If you get Top Cow deluxe hardcovers, they're standard size.
Oh.
So I bought a few of them recently, like Cyberforce and stuff that they've done for some of the reprints and stuff, and they're standard size books. They're not oversized. They're still nice hardcovers and well bound, but just something to watch out for.
Yeah.
So I'm new to the TMNT stuff. I've only read a few of the IDW collections. I think I've read volume 1 and 2. I think I started 3, but never actually finished it. But it's something I want to go back and read it all eventually. That's why I was eyeing up that compendium. But again, it's just the price, and it's only came out last week. Was it? Week before that?
Something like that. Last week. Mine might have even come this week. I can't remember. I've had that many packages turn up this week.
He's lost track.
It's been like one every day.
But somebody
the compendium is the original black and white stuff, though. It's not the new run.
No, it's the original.
Yeah.
Because somebody has coined the phrase. I've heard the phrase Omnigeddon relating to October and November. There's so much stuff coming out. I think it's one of those things that you can have to pick the best of the bunch, or else get it all. But it sounds like, Adam, you might have just
well, even if I'd have tried to do that, I think a lot of the stuff that's been turning up over the last couple of weeks for me has been stuff I pre-ordered ages ago and was due to come out kind of staggered throughout the last few months, but has all been delayed until like now. There's been a lot of delays and stuff, and it all seems to have kind of like, there was a time a few months ago where I hadn't had a package for weeks, like not one thing, and like I think that was all the delays. And then on the flip side, the knock on is that it's all just been shoved to now. So yeah,
and there's been all the postal strikes as well.
True.
Well, Chris is saying, Adam, he's saying Adam is a lot like me. Thinks I have enough books to get through, then hand clicks proceed to checkout. I think we all suffer from that slightly. Can't control ourselves sometimes when you see things just look so pretty on the internet pages when I buy it and get it home and never read it for 2 years, because that's what I can do anyway. Thanks very much, Adam. We'll do one at a time, like I say. And Chris from Off My Shelves again has said that Incal Deluxe better be shown, G. Still waiting his. So
I won't say anything yet.
Highland G, do you want to show something off?
Do you want to see that inkle?
So whatever's on top of the pile, just go first.
Okay, well, that's what's on top of the pile then. So my next book that I picked up is Afro Samurai. Sorry, my throat's gone super dry. I pre-ordered this a while ago and was actually, as Adam was saying, expecting this first one in sort of early October, and then it was pushed back to November as far as I was concerned. And then it just randomly turned up like last week, even though as far as I was concerned, it wasn't supposed to be out till November. The thing with Forbidden Planet, where I pre-order most of my stuff, is they only charge you when they ship it. So, it's not like I had to pay in advance or anything. You can kind of create a pre-order list 6 months, a year in advance, and just go and knock off things that you don't want as you kind of go back through it. You don't have to let all the orders go through, and you're not being refunded or anything. So I find that quite easy. But I was expecting this to be manga sized. This is like a full size trade, and I was also expecting it to be sort of completely black and white, but there's sort of blood sections that are red, if you can make that out.
Yeah, looks cool. So it pops a lot.
This isn't something that I've read or checked out before. I know there's a sort of anime short show of like 8 episodes or something with Samuel Jackson voicing it, as far as I know. It was really popular. This is like an anniversary reprint, so there'll be 2 volumes. But it's just something that I want to check out because it's samurais and Samuel Jackson. I mean, can't really go wrong.
Yeah, when I seen the title there, it had samurai in it, I was like, of course, because you do like a good samurai story of all sorts.
I've been pretty much picking up anything that's in color for now. There's been bits or pieces that I picked up in black and white just because either I didn't know it was in black and white when I bought it, or maybe it's like key stories that I wanted to kind of check out. But yeah, I've been just enjoying that lore. I spent a long time reading superheroes, and then when I came out of superheroes, I spent a lot of time reading like crime noir and things like that, almost to the point that I burnt myself out of both of them. So having something as a completely different genre to kind of go into based in that kind of time period is quite nice. So I don't read like samurai book after samurai book, but I'll read maybe this, and then I'll maybe read an omnibus or something, and I'll come back and I'll read a different samurai book, and it's just a good palette cleanser that's a bit different.
100%. It looks really cool. Yeah, excellent. I will go on, but before I do so, Rubbish Gamer, I'm sure you're not that bad. I'm sure you're okay. I'm sure you're a good gamer. Saying, hey guys. Chris is saying that, yes, they were library size. They only collected the Eastman and Laird written issues. The color ones were bad build quality, apparently, and it's sacrilege, so they didn't touch it. I don't know if that actually, that compendium, there's one issue missing, I think. It's something to do with the rights of a character, I think, I believe. I'm not really sure where it falls, but I know there's one issue.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Yeah, I don't know what it is or why. But...
I know there was that with some of the Transformers books where they had to black out some of the characters due to rights or something at one point.
Oh, really? So Transformers is still IDW at the minute, but it's been banded about a few times, hasn't it? To different.
I think it just crossed over with so many things, kind of like Aliens have. That at one point they must have lost one of the licenses that they had their crossover with, so they just weren't allowed to show it.
Scott's saying he is really looking forward to learning more about Omnis from us. He feels like he's going to get a lot of FOMO. To be fair, I had FOMO from Scott this week because he got a few pickups that I didn't pre-order it because I was afraid of, but we'll get to that later on. I'll show my first kind of pickup this week, and it was an eBay bargain. I've always kind of wanted to dip into manga, and I'm not like, I've started to watch some anime on Netflix, and it looks really cool. But sometimes I just feel there's so much of it that you can get started. So I picked up Fist of the North Star, volumes 1 and 2.
Cool.
Got them on eBay. Don't know anything about the story. I know there's a game. There's anime movies and an anime TV show, which, again, the only thing that kind of brought me to it was just the art. The art is fantastic. But I think I get the impression all anime art is pretty much fantastic. I don't know why. I just get that impression. But, yeah, like some of that looks pretty awesome. But, and do you guys, I know Highland G, you do, Adam, do you read manga at all?
I've read one manga, and by one I mean like one volume of one manga as well. So,
well, this is that will do. I'll find because I was trying to flick through this and trying to read it. So you obviously read from the back, but do you read from the top right? Do you know what I mean? Like in the complete opposite way you would read a normal kind of comic book.
See, the one
yeah.
manga that I read, you didn't have to do that because it was the Blade of the Immortal,
Okay, yes, that's
which
been-
they've done kind of Western reading stuff.
Yeah, so you start at what would be traditionally our back page of the book, and you would start top right and work left, and then go down and work left, and so on.
Yeah.
So rather than starting top left and going right with your bubbles, you start top right and work left. Obviously, the bubbles are in English, so you're reading the actual words left to right.
See, that's what I was thinking. That there probably will be points where I'll kind of forget myself and like not read things in a coherent way. Like
you do that in comics anyway. I find sometimes with comics you'll get the speech bubbles, then you get the narration and so on. And sometimes I'll go back and like read the speech bubbles, and then I'll read like through the narration, like just to kind of like double check things for myself. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The other thing with manga as well is it's typically, maybe 2-3 panels on a page if you're lucky. So it's not really that difficult to follow. The only time you're going to really be put off by anything is when it gets like really high motion. Sometimes it's just like a blur on a page, but you don't have to read anything then. You just move to the next page.
Well, the other reason why I kind of went for this is because I believe they're up to volume 5 being translated into English, whereas a lot of the manga books like have like 30 odd books. And you're right. I think you'll go through these quicker than like a normal kind of trade paperback comic book, whatever. But if I had 30 of these, I just wouldn't pick them up. It'd be too daunting. I'd be like, oh, I can't commit to 30. But 5 I can commit to, and then hopefully when catch up, the 6th one comes out, and I'm not really sure the total of these.
It's probably like 30.
Well, that's the thing. If you're collecting like one series and you just kind of get one at a time, it's not so bad if that ends up being like 20 books. But if you know it's 20 books going in, that's a little bit different. So like for me with the manga that I've read, I've only ever read things that are maybe 5 to 6 volumes, like that I've known is complete. So I read like, I think it was called Wonderland or something like that, and it was like an Alice in Wonderland's kind of somewhat horror-esque story where this girl had been miniaturized. I read. Most recently, it was like Stray Cat Samurai, which is actually really well told. I thought it was going to be some totally goofy book, but they kind of mix the story of like animals and ownership and where their status is if they're like a wild animal or an owned animal and how that kind of fits into the world. And they mix all that in with samurai lore, and it's actually just really, really well done. Like I was really surprised. But it's like 5 volumes and you're done. And then the Stitch and the Samurai was the most recent one. And that's like 3 volumes, and it's like a little Tokyo Pop thing, so you can fly through that.
Yeah, I'm going to add up. But you did say that's nearly out of print, I think. So it's
Well,
hard to come by.
a lot of the stuff that they print, they tend to do just like a run and it's done kind of thing. So it's not that it's out of print. It's just that when it's gone, it's gone. So I would recommend to people if they're interested just to grab it because it's cheap enough.
I think I have a lot of books on my Christmas wish list, which I then forward to my wife. So hopefully she just gets to rummage through that and picks whatever she thinks looks good. So hopefully I get it then. See, with manga too, like another book that I wanted to pick up, it was last year, it was Finland Saga. And they weren't that far into it. But then I recently had a wee look through, and they're pretty high up on the list. I think maybe up to 12 or 13, possibly, maybe even more. I'm thinking, like last year, you were like 5. That seemed achievable, but now you've just like beat them out over the course of the year, so they are getting them out fairly quickly.
I think once if it's all exists, they can reprint these things quite quickly. Like I almost started buying the Full Metal Alchemist hardcover books because I love the anime, and I'm glad I didn't because there seemed to be like a new one every couple of weeks, and there's quite a few of them.
It's
They're nice, and they're not even that. They're pretty cheap as well, which was the other temptation. But I don't know. I think I'll just stick with the anime because it's so good. So.
Just saying hello, Connie Dalton. She may not be here anymore. She says I can't join the chat. I'll catch the rewind. And Rich from Comic vs. the World, as per usual, can't stick around, but he'll watch us over the weekend.
The stream has officially been christened now.
That's
episode 1. We've had our first from Rich soon.
But like Friday evening, like no one has anything to do on a Friday evening apart from hanging out with us. This is the best thing about my weekend, anyway. Even though it is Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
So one full circle. We're back around to Adam. Do you have something else to show off? Showcase?
What should I pick? Yeah, I just realized I don't have anywhere near 5, but okay.
We'll do 3 so we don't, have the whole show.
We'll do 3 because we're 20 minutes in already.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four Full Circle.
Nice.
I have no idea what this is about. I literally only just read the blurb the other day. I thought it was maybe like an origin story or something. I had no idea. I don't really care. The main draw for this was Alex Ross doing interior artwork. So yeah, I picked this up. It's been getting, some hype behind it as well. And I don't think it's just because it's Alex Ross doing interiors. I think it's meant to be pretty good story as well. So, and it's not very thick. It's quite a small one. Alex Ross.
Alex Ross.
It's just all
whole thing. Yeah.
And it's not painted, it's drawn art as well, which is slightly different to usual.
So he's kind of tried to, I think, kind of mesh his style a bit with the style of Jack Kirby. So it's kind of a bit of a mashup. Yeah. But it was starting to seem like it might have been hard to get. So I actually got this on eBay because Amazon ran out of them. I don't think they had any on Forbidden Planet. So I'm glad I managed to get it. I'm not sure if it's like hard to find now or what, but there was like a slip-cased version that was like gold dust, apparently. No idea if anyone's got one of them. It's probably quite hard to get in the UK.
I actually walked into my Forbidden Planet a month or so ago, and they had the slipcase for £35. Yeah. Oof. But I think that's like 20 against it's something's killing children all over again. It's like £20 extra for the cardboard slipcase. I wanted it. I was like, I'm a bit short this month. I spent a lot already on books, so I didn't go for the £35 edition. But I picked it up as well.
Cool.
I got it from Amazon. I think it must have been one of the last ones. I wasn't going to buy it, but you're right. There's a lot of hype about the books, and if I see a bit of hype, I'm thinking I don't want to miss out. It's the FOMO kicks in, and it's like I had to buy that. So I haven't read it. It's not my pickup pile. I actually forgot all about it, but that may one day be coming to the comic book club. Weekly comic club near you. Who knows?
Sounds good.
Really very soon. We have Thomas. We have a ginger alpaca. Saying, what's Omnifuss? What is the Omnifuss? Hello. He's from Twitch. Yeah, that's a great. I'm looking forward to that because again, Alex Ross. It's not painted because I got slated for like not overly liking Kingdom Come.
But was that for the art or not? It was. I think you just thought it was overrated, right?
I think it's overly overrated. Plus, with the painted art style, I think it does like very static, but it's not. It's bad. It looks gorgeous. It's just for a comic book doesn't always work for me. But I am looking forward to reading this because it's drawn. So I'm hoping there's more dynamic kind of action scenes rather than just like a painted kind of still image. But time will tell. But it does look really good. And you're right. It's only it's a short read. So apparently I think it's only 3 single issues, maybe oversized single issues. But yeah. James Copley is joined. Say hi guys. Sorry I'm late. Don't apologize. Just grab a beer and kick back and relax. So Highland G, do you want to show off your next pickup?
Yeah. So this is one that I picked up quite cheap actually. On Forbidden Planet they do like sale items every so often, just because I don't know if everybody knows, but Forbidden Planet is owned by Titan Comics, which is a bigger kind of publisher in the UK. And they have also, I think there's like Crime Comics, I think it's Hard Case Comics or something is theirs as well. So it's all one kind of company. Because of that, every so often they're just kind of cleaning out their warehouses of kind of stock, and you get stuff really highly reduced. So a while ago, I think I mentioned to you, Phil, there's that samurai book that was like going for a $5.
I got it, yeah.
As a hardcover, and this was a similar thing that I got the 2 of these. So I think they were supposed to be about £15 when they came out, but I got both of them for I think it was like £5 and £6 each, and they're kind of like European standard size, so they're not like oversized books, but they are still a kind of reasonable size, and it's maybe about as long as maybe 2 issues or so worth inside. As far as like the amount of actual pages, it's not kind of that dense. But the the basics kind of thing here is you've got a sort of Rugrats style South Park kind of school group kind of going on, but you've got this kid who basically wants to be a slasher, and there's just references all the way through it whenever he's like trying to kill somebody, of various other sort of slasher movies and kind of different stuff going on. Can't find it, any images where they're kind of showing stuff. Let's see. But they have like the normal kind of school drama, so you'll get like, you know, maybe one character is the kind of preppy girl, or one of them is kind of like the stuck up, or one of them's like the poor kid or something like that. But they play like right into it and like take the piss out of each other quite harshly. And then basically they have all these various kind of horror moments where they just like kind of kill each other. So I read the first book, and the first one is basically the story of this girl who gets killed at the school and then somehow comes back, and then our slasher kid has to try and go and find out why this girl's going to come back. And then he gets into her house, and there turns out to be like 40 of this kind of girls, like she's being like cloned or something like that. And I'll see if I can find a picture of that. And this guy's basically cloned this woman because it was his wife, and they're trying to kind of have extra bodies, kind of like the sort of Damian Wayne story they had in Robin, where like they had extra bodies to kind of replace his parts as he kind of gets older and stuff. But these girls all kind of turn against the kind of mad scientist, and there's, as I said, just endless random slasher moments.
I love the way the art style is quite cutesy, but like the covers, one of them's holding a bottle of whiskey, and the other one's got like a knife covered in blood. It's actually really cool looking.
Yeah, so it's like
it's like a Funko Pop, is it almost, isn't it? Holding the knife.
It's like you're reading Rugrats or something, but it's you know, beyond South Park kind of humor, because it's kind of full on slasher.
What did you say they were reduced to on?
They're $5 just now, £5 and £6, I think, each.
I'm gonna check them out, because again, that samurai book you gave us again was £5, and again the art alone it's fantastic to have for a £5 book. Yeah, that looks really good. Looks excellent. Yeah.
So I said they've got the first two. You can get on there, and I've been trying to get there's a third hardcover. I've been trying to look around for, and I think the cheapest I could find that was about a tenner on eBay, but I might pick that up as well just to kind of round off the set.
Complete the set. Excellent. No, that looks really good. Excellent stuff. I love, this is why I like chatting and these, you know, even whenever we're talking, like after the quiz, for example, when we're not live on YouTube, we have a chat. I think that looks so cool. I'm gonna buy that book. Nice. That's why I do this. What's all the Omnifuss about? This is it. My next pickup was a bit of a weird one. Are you guys fans of wrestling, or were you ever fans of wrestling?
No, not really.
Passively, I used to collect as a kid the toys, WCW toys. So I had like what was it, like Sting and all that kind of stuff, like back in the day. But I don't think I ever actively watched wrestling.
Yeah. Well, the last year there's been quite a few wrestling themed books. There was one called Crimson Cage, which is like wrestling mixed with Macbeth. There was a one shot called Hell as a Squared Circle. And then I don't know if you've seen the best book of 2022 easily by far is a book called Do a Powerbomb. And get that at some point when it comes out in collector's edition. But I just had this urge to kind of get into wrestling books for some reason. But so a friend of mine sent me this, and I haven't read it yet, but it's meant to be quite funny. It's the comic book story of professional wrestling. But it's not like it's hard to explain. It's just basically a retelling of all the history of like WWE or WWF and WCW. So it kind of like focuses on a lot of the kind of like the big moments in like wrestling history. It's just like a retelling story of it. And again, haven't read it yet. Flick through it briefly. It just looks very comical, very cartoony style. Like some of the images, like I'm trying to find. They're a bit goofy and stuff. Like there's, I'm sure if you ever heard of Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, you might know them guys. But it does look.
It's the same art all the way through.
Yeah, it's the same art the whole way through. I've never heard of the people who create this. Where's their names? They're somewhere. Aubrey Sitterson, and he's the writer, and Chris Moreno. He's worked for Boom, IDW, and Image, Marvel, and Cinescope, but I've never heard of them. But yeah, like it's just it's just the way it kind of like references like some of the big moments. There's Sting getting some sort of green, I don't know, whatever spot into his face. But I'm just looking forward to like the nostalgia of kind of reading through this, kind of remembering moments that when I was younger I used to watch wrestling. And it comes right up to the current. Well, it was 2018 when this came out apparently. So up to that point where it's like you've got the modern day WWE and you've got like the New Japan Wrestling, and you don't have AEW yet, but you have like the emergence of like that kind of group of people who then go to form AEW. So if you're a big wrestling fan, like I say, this year's been really good for wrestling comics. Looks very entertaining anyway, so I'm looking forward to getting to that. So that's the comic book story of professional wrestling. And yes, Chris, the screw job is in there. I'm glad you mentioned that. It has to be. I am Shawn Michaels' #1 fan, who obviously screwed over Bret Hart, which is great. Obviously, you only get that reference if you're a wrestling fan. But yeah, everyone's in there. Hulk Hogan, Sting, Macho Man, Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind, they're all in here. All the pivotal moments of wrestling history. And there will be moments like there's back to the 30s and stuff as well. And I'll not really understand that, I'm sure, but I'm just looking forward to diving into that. So that's the...
Is there like bits in between the stories, or how's it kind of separated out?
It does seem to jump. Like I say, there's no speech bubbles. It's just like a retelling, like a narration of a story.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back and forth. I think, again, like Chris mentioned the screw job. So I mentioned the screw job, which was 97. Then it kind of goes back and forth to like the history around that kind of time of those two wrestlers, whatever.
So it's just kind of read through as one story rather than read as like individual.
Yeah. It's one. It's like basically if we sat here all night and had a show and I just talked to you about wrestling, and I would say something. Oh yeah, by the way, such and such, and then by the way, such and such. So it's like it does seem quite haphazard, but in a good way, like an entertaining way. Hopefully, anyway. But like I say, I'll get into that. But yeah, sorry, Chris. Bret Hart sucks. Yeah. So yeah, that was my one this week, and like we used the phrase Omnigeddon, and I've really tried my best to avoid buying books the next 2 months and put them on my Christmas wish list because there's so much stuff out. So I haven't dived too much into the Omnigeddon of October and November and start of December, but we'll get into that.
I mean, I'm not big with Marvel in general, so I don't get hit quite as hard because Marvel's the big one that pumps out most of the books, so it doesn't affect me quite so harsh. But as I said, from what Adam was saying earlier on, the bigger thing for me is that I've had pre-orders sitting since like January that are now all coming in November. So it's not that I'm buying books that are coming out in November; it's the backlog that's now going to hit me, kind of thing. So I don't really have anything pre-ordered beyond November currently. I'm just kind of waiting on back orders to come in.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I had a quick look through solicitations. There's not that much coming from DC in the next few months. Marvel seemed to kind of again be the on top there, but even when it comes to like Image and things like that, I couldn't find too many books solicited for the next 2 or 3 months. So you might be alright until the summer.
With me is it's the lesser known books that they kind of like sneak into the solicitations that I'm kind of watching for, because I collect the Birds of Prey run in the kind of thicker trades and the Young Justice book, and the last Young Justice book has just been announced. It's like coming out this next month, book 6. And the Gail Simone Birds of Prey one is actually really confusing because they just randomly bring out different volumes. They do all line up, but they give them different names, so they're not called like volume 1. It's like Murder in This or Killers or whatever it may be. So that's what I would advise if you are looking for certain DC things. Just like search on like various shops and stuff, because sometimes you'll find that even though it's not been shown in solicitations, it has come out in some form or another. So they haven't been doing deluxe books for a while. I haven't seen very many of that at all. There's a few omnibus here and there, but the main ones that I've been successful with is they're not called complete collections, but that kind of sized books.
Yeah. And like I say, they've got a few absolutes, I think. But they're strange. They're in a strange time, DC, and it's going. While you touched on it, and I will talk about it because you had put something on your Instagram a few days ago about the kind of DC in general, not just about their hardcover collection books, but like the kind of universe. It is a bit strange place the minute I find DC. Even for single issues, I don't have that many DC books on my pull list. Other than Batman, I think that might be it. But it doesn't seem to be like they know what they're doing.
it just gets flooded for me, and that's the problem. Ever since basically Metal, when they introduced a new writer for Batman, but Scott Snyder never stopped writing his stuff. That's when it all started dividing for me. Like you had two things that were giving two different stories. You know, you had one guy telling this very human story about, you know, is Batman, you know, the equivalent of being willing to commit suicide for your city kind of thing. And you've got somebody else telling a story where, you know, you're creating Transformers and fighting with new elements. Like it's not the same. They're completely separate things. And then you had all the kind of Black Label books and stuff come in as well, and various other kind of short stories, which they can somewhat kind of stand alone. But I just kind of took a back seat, and then I started reading Robin. So I wanted to read what evolves out of that, because for some reason they've kind of cut that run short. And I know it crosses over with Deathstroke briefly, and then it goes into what should be like a Batman versus Robin story or something like that. I think it's getting written by Mark Wade.
Is it Wade or Williamson? It's one of the W's. Maybe it might be
Williamson did Robin, but I think the crossover is getting done by Wade because it's spinning out of World's Finest. So it's World's Finest and Robin that are crossing over, which again just makes me think, well, if it's the World's Finest Batman that's crossing over with the current Robin, then why isn't the current Batman, like, what's going on? Like, it's really like that confuses the hell out of me.
It's like you mentioned, obviously going back to Metal. So you had Metal and you had Death Metal. Then you had like Scott Snyder's Justice League run, which obviously Metal came from it too. But then they went with a book called Doomsday Clock, and it was meant to kind of be like the reset again of the DC continuity or something like this.
I never got around to reading it because it took so long to come out.
It did. It was delayed. To be fair, I read it in single issues when it came out, but there was like sometimes 3 months in between. And I'm looking for
Heroes in Crisis, Red Flash Forwards, all that stuff. But that was the one that I missed because they just took forever to bring it out. Yeah, I think I got the first couple of issues and I gave
all
up.
Those ones you've mentioned, like these were all meant to lead to something else and something better, but they haven't because they were all delayed. There was all these issues with them. So now I just don't think they know where they're going. There's an event at the minute, some sort of crisis. What's it called? I forget.
Dark Crisis.
So no doubt that will do something probably, and we'll have some sort of
Dark Crisis is basically doing like a dark. As far as I understand it, they treated it like if you think about it, it's like you've got one plane and all goods on one side of the plane and all darkness is on the other side of the plane, and then you've got the what you call it, the source wall, kind of in between. The dark universe has every event that's taken place in the light universe, but a dark version of it, and that's basically what this event is. I don't know how they then cross into the normal universe, but that's the theory. And from what I've grasped from Shane, it seems like it's just a bunch of new hack writers having a go at old writers, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's hard to know what DC, what path they're kind of going along, and until they kind of get their shit together. Like I don't say I like Batman because I like Batman, but like you're saying, there's so many different Batman.
I mean, there are gems in there. I love the Robin run. Like the Robin run by Williamson is great.
Is that the one you said that was like a Street Fighter Mortal Kombat style tournament?
It's like Mortal Kombat, yeah. Basically, like the first issue or two is basically that he finds out that there's a Lazarus kind of group outside of the League of Shadows and the League of, I forget what the other one is. So there's 3 leagues now rather than just 2, and he wants to go and find out what is going on with this, and to get their attention, he basically beats up bad guys, and then someone notices him, and as it literally goes and gives him a coin or something that says "Go get on this boat," and I'm like, that's Mortal Kombat.
I really want to read this, but it's going to be a while before it ever gets collected, right? And that's the pain of being a collector.
Well, there's 2 trades out, but as far as hardcovers, I don't know what they're.
I want an omnibus of something like that.
The worry for me would be what book collects it, because there'll be a small crossover with Deathstroke, and then as I said, there's going to be this Batman versus Robin stuff that comes next. But would they collect that all in a Batman? Like, as in, would they have World's Finest and that, or would they have Robin and that? Like if they collected it later, like that was my worry. So that's why I went for trades, because I just don't know if they will collect it all kind of together or in the way that I want it anyway.
Yeah.
And I also bought a trade that came out that's like DC put together. It's just like a 2 issues from Teen Titans and 2 issues from Batman. It kind of leads into the Robin run as well, which I don't know if that would be collected in an omnibus, but I thought that was quite a cool lead-in that they put together.
It's just very messy. Like I say, like if they had it all in one omnibus, like what would they even call it? Like, because there's so many different characters, so many different kind of stories, whatever tying into it. It's like, what do you even call the whole thing overall?
I mean, they could call it like the Lazarus Saga or something and try and put it all together.
But there's a Lazarus book coming out in January. I don't know what it is, another event called the Lazarus something or other. And maybe it's related to Robin, I do not know. But I just think DC at the minute, they're not grabbing my attention, that's for sure. Just because it's things are a little bit messy. And
but I really, really enjoyed the run for what it was. I say for within that, it was really good. And then they once you actually get into the run itself, they develop Damien quite a lot. So you get a lot of him trying to actually honestly create friends and stumbling blocks that he kind of comes across within that. There's a girl that he likes. At one point, he's caught reading manga, and someone takes a piss out of him. And there's just like little bits and pieces that you get to connect with Damien more. So like if you didn't already like Damien, as this kind of lovable rogue type character, you would after reading this. I don't read a ton of DC. The only other thing I used to read was The Flash, and when they went into all this metal stuff and then brought back Barry, I was like, well, I don't want to read all this stuff with Barry, kind of going through metal. But now I'm kind of confused because I've not looked back into it, but Wally's back, but he's in Barry's suit again. So I don't understand. Like, he came back and he got this defined kind of cherry red suit with his hair out and looked super badass. And then he got the blue suit briefly as he kind of got the Dr. Manhattan powers and what have you. And then kind of came back again to that. And then as I said, I don't know, like, I know he's the main Flash again, but why did he have to give up his suit?
This is the thing. The flash forwards, that was the run where he got Dr. Manhattan's powers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And like, they didn't seem to do anything with it. Like I say, I don't think they know what they're doing with.
Well, he had them for that story because basically what he did was jump around fixing all the
he was the previous
crises that went wrong or something.
Yeah.
But then after he fixed it all, he gave the chair away, kind of like giving Excalibur back to the lake kind of thing. And then that was the end of it.
Yeah. But like, even like that flash forward, to be fair, I think it was 6 issues, and it was quite entertaining. But like I say, that will never be collected, I don't think, because I don't know how they would do that as well.
I mean, I liked Flash Forward for what it was, but it only existed because of Heroes in Crisis, which I can't really forgive them for. So it's kind of
Heroes in Crisis. That's one. I'm the same as you. Like it started off quite strong, but it ended really poorly. I was like, oh, come on, guys, this is dreadful.
And then to find out later that when he wrote it, he never even wrote it with those characters. DC said that's the characters to use. He'd just written a story, so he hadn't even written it with Wally West in mind, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, there's a lot of what's the phrase? There are too many cooks in the kitchen for that one. I think they were all kind of getting involved because this is the point, they didn't know what direction they were going with the overall universe, so they were trying to kind of dictate, and they were going to use Heroes in Crisis. Then they didn't because it sucked, and it did because there was too many people.
But I think that's the issue with DC now. Is it's not even that different people want to go in different directions. It's that they're not writing DC characters. Like, they come in and they have a love story they want to tell, and then they just go to DC and go, right, what 2 characters will fit that? And then they just tell a story. And they don't care about the lore. They're not building on these characters to make the characters better or connect better with the audience. They just want to tell their 1 or 2 stories, and they get given a character to do it, and that kind of takes it away. For me, I'm like, well, why are you doing it with DC then? Why don't you just write an indie book?
Yeah, exactly. If anyone kind of has never read Heroes in Crisis, to kind of tell you how bad it was, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Wally West was running, whatever you call it, swimming around, and Harley Quinn managed to hit him with her mallet. That's how bad the book was in my mind, because Harley Quinn should never be able to hit, any of the Flashes with her mallet, but she did. That was just poor for me. Sonic's Comics has joined us to leave them up. Sorry I'm late. Not to worry, glad you're here. We'll move on with our final pickups. I know you have plenty to show, Adam, but like we'll narrow it down. This will be the last one. If you want to show off the best one you have.
I'll show off what I think is probably the most interesting one.
Nice.
Sorry. It's called One Beautiful Spring Day by Jim Woodring. I'd never heard of it, and I just thought, I literally just saw it on Forbidden Planet and was like, oh, that's quite a fancy book. Must be pretty interesting to give it a fancy edition. And obviously I like fancy editions. So
they should just put everything in slipcases for that reason.
Yeah, I know. It'll at least get my attention. So this is literally a book with no dialogue in it whatsoever as well, which I thought was interesting because it's all black and white, and it's all basically just I think it's one kind of character making his way through like a really trippy kind of like crazy universe or like kind of hellscape. It's something I don't really know a lot about, but that alone plus some of the previews of the art that I saw, I was like, right, I'll just pick it up and I'm probably gonna enjoy it. Kind of the artwork reminds me a bit of like kind of like a crazy LSD version of like Usagi. So which I read recently some of that and I really loved, so I thought I'd pick it up, and it literally came I think yesterday or something, so I haven't had a chance to properly flick through it, but I thought it was interesting alone just for the lack of dialogue. Apparently people say it's like really good, so quite well revered. I hadn't heard of it at all, so I always like things that kind of fly under the radar like that when I look into them have quite a lot of high praise. So
the thing is, like, look at that edition, like it looks like is it like felt as well on that?
It's like the end bit here is like kind of cloth, and so is the entire slipcase. It's like shiny.
I just feel like when you put that level of detail on a book, like one, I mean, you could probably demand a higher price point, but at the same time, you wouldn't do it unless you felt it was worth it as the public
exactly
thing. So, even just by looking at it, know nothing about the story, like I said, but looking at that and the art looks really good.
No, I mean it's apparently it's just like one long. Well, it's 3 graphic novels that I think the artist writer he actually kind of like interspersed. So he chained up the 3 graphic novels with extra pages for this edition, so it's just kind of like one long kind of trip apparently. So it's kind of like nothing I've ever really tried to read before. I don't really know how it's going to go, but just
I like
really
that idea though. I wish more kind of creative teams would do that when it came to like collected editions and stuff, because when you buy single issues, it's kind of expected that you're going to be introduced at the start of each issue and somewhat rounded up at the end of each issue. And when they put in a collected edition, if they could just remove like that one panel that is reintroducing you and do like a joining panel or something instead, it would make it flow so much nicer as one book. Because for me personally, I don't care if I can see where one issue ends and another one starts. I just want the flow.
Yeah.
So like
this just seems like it's nothing but flow. Like I've been flicking through it earlier today and I've not found a single kind of interruption. Like there's no like chapter breaks or anything. It's just one long thing without dialogue, which seems insane. So I'm really intrigued to see how they get away. Like I love when people can do storytelling without dialogue. Like I can tell I'm a massive fan of Samurai Jack. Stuff like that has always been like something I really like kind of visual storytelling, and the ability to tell a coherent story without words is quite a feat. So that's kind of what drew my attention to this. So we'll see.
It's kind of like early animation where you just you wouldn't have had like speaking as such. You just had like sound effects.
Exactly.
So like you had to animate expressively enough for people to know what was kind of going on. Kind of looks like Sylvester and Tweety type kind of stuff to me, like really expressive kind of
like on acid. That's the other thing. I've been flicking through it, and just some of the imagery that has popped up in front of me, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like out of context as a slice of just flicking through, like some of it seems insane. So it's going to be an interesting read, I think, at the very least. And the line work in it looks amazing. It's really nicely printed. Kind of glad I bought it, really.
Martin is definitely admiring that. It's this nice looking hardcover. It does looks pretty. Looks like it's too good to be like a comic. In a way, you know? Like it's too good for us in a way.
It's definitely too good for me.
Never. Highland G, do you want to showcase your next and last? So pick a good one. Make Chris happy.
This one.
See, I've been waiting for this because I actually have it to show as well, but I'll let you show it because I've got a story about mine, and I wonder if it's going to be the same with yours. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I pre-ordered this a while ago. This is the big kind of edition. Yeah. So basically, it's a European sized hardcover, but it's the oversized hardcovers, and that's the way that I prefer to have my kind of humanoids books. So I've got like the Scarlet Blades and some other books in that similar size, and I've also got the Meta Barons, which is another Jodorowsky book in the exact same kind of format as this. It's a creamy box rather than a black box. I didn't know they were doing this, so I actually bought the black and white book, which I'm now going to have to try and sell and probably lose money on because I think I spent like 50 quid on it or something, and it's probably not going to go for that now, with more reprints and so on kind of coming out. But yeah, I had this in pre-order for a while, and as far as I understand, it got pushed back. Like I say, everything else got pushed back, so I think I actually got a notification from Forbidden Planet or something saying that it wasn't likely to come until like January or something like that. And then I just got a notification that it was kind of getting shipped out to me. I haven't read it or anything since I got it, but one thing I have noticed with it, just because I have slipped it on my shelves off and on and stuff, is that the slipcase is kind of hardcover isn't as robust as the Meta Barons one. It's kind of a matte finish. It's only glossy kind of where the text and things are, but anything that I've kind of pushed it up against, I don't know if I can show you. You can kind of see let's see if we can get the light, like little edge dings and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other books or things that it's kind of been up next to. So this hard case is nowhere near as durable as the Meta Barons one. I don't know why. I just went with like not as hard materials because it seems still quite thick. Like it's still reasonably thick card, and when you get to here, it's like doubled up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just doesn't seem to hold up all that great to little dings and things. So that's unfortunate. I'll have to try and keep it in a place that's not going to get kind of bashed up. But it comes as two books. You've got the one which is the art, which interestingly is the black and white and the color of the same page.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be cool to have even after I get rid of the kind of black and white version, because I won't need to have two copies. And then this is the main book itself. But I've never read the Inkcult. I've read the Meta Barons because I had that one for quite a while now. I'd been hoping to get this in color in a larger edition, but as I said, I got the black and white one, and I just never got around to reading it. So hopefully now that I do have the color one, I can kind of finally get a chance to read through that. I honestly don't know if I'm going to keep both of them once I'm kind of fully done with it, but it's been a really, really interesting experience. And kind of like Adam was saying in the last book, sometimes you turn a page and you see something and kind of out of context, you're like, what is going on? Or it takes you completely out of your comfort zone. There's parts in the Meta Barons one where each Meta Baron is trying to kind of outdo the previous one. So they have to kind of kill their own kind of father, but they also have to kind of create a new power set or a new thing kind of each time. And it gets really weird. Like there's all sorts of incest and rape kind of things and stuff like that in there. So if you are sensitive to those things, I wouldn't recommend kind of going into the Jodorowsky kind of books, because his openness is very much a European kind of take on things, kind of rather than a British or American kind of much more closed down way of thinking, I guess, in general, when you get published books and stuff like that. But yeah, it looks great. It's a lovely matte kind of book itself. Mm-hmm. There's no kind of glossiness or anything to that. It is going to pick up my fingers though, because of the kind of greasy fingers. But yeah, other than that, it looks really good.
So the story I've got about the story I've got about my one is that it didn't come with the portfolio art print thing. Oh, it was just completely missing. Like in the shrink wrap, just opened it earlier, opened it up. I felt like when I picked it up, like there was a bit of give, and I was like, oh, there's not a lot like in there, or it's that like you said, the card they've made the outer box out of is quite, I don't know, it's not the sturdiest.
It's more
So when
flexible. It's like spongy.
When I picked it up, I could tell that there was like a lot of give, and then opening it up to find that the print thing was completely just missing was like, I was like, oh, it makes sense now why there's so much give when I picked it up.
I mean, mine
So
felt like it was
super odd.
rattly even with it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as snug as the other one. I don't know if they changed who printed them or what, but the overall book is still good though, and that's why I bought it. I bought it for the oversized book. So ultimately, the box is just there to protect the book. So I'm not complaining about the value or anything as far as the actual book is concerned. If anyone's kind of concerned from that perspective, I still think it's worth it for the book. But
just do what you do with your DVD movies, and we just rip them up like cardboard. Just who cares for them? So Adam, that book you have then, so is it still in stock? Can you get it again? Like if you obviously is it gone from online?
Yeah, so I've ordered I've emailed Forbidden Planet and trying to get a replacement, just because it's clearly some kind of like manufacturing thing where it just didn't put one in my box. So I'm waiting to hear back. They're getting more in stock. It's like available for pre-order again on Forbidden Planet. So I think they're getting more in. So hopefully they'll be able to sort me out with a replacement. But yeah, it's just really strange. I've never had anything like that significant, like just outright not been packed into the package of something like this before. But yeah, it's a great read. The Incal, it's kind of like a bit of like a fever dream trip as well. So kind of funny that I was just showing a book that looks a bit trippy, and then the Incal. Some trippy content here for episode 1 of that's all the Omnifuss about.
That's what I like to hear. That's what we're here for. Yeah. So is it my turn?
It is.
Yeah. I've got. I'll show this one because it's very straightforward, and it has a story in that I got it for really, really cheap. But again, I mentioned before, I don't have nothing pre-ordered for the next 2 months. And hope that Santa brings me my books. But on Amazon, like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, they had this for £32. It's like, well, I love one of the stories. I love Gods Immortals. So they had this George Perez Wonder Woman book.
I saw that
for £32 on Amazon. I thought, like, I can't say no.
I was like, did they get the price wrong or something?
Yeah, maybe they did.
Everywhere else was like 50, 60.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think I got it for the same, and I bought it because it was low as well. And
I considered it, but then I was like, I really don't need another omnibus.
See, I don't need it, and the problem is there's 3 of these in total to complete this kind of run.
Which I didn't realize, because that's not numbered, right? Like that, there's no number on.
Yeah, there's no number. You're right.
But the volumes 2 and 3 have a number on. Like I saw them on a selling page recently. I was like, oh, there's 3 of them. I thought it was just like a one and done.
I could be wrong. I think George Perez didn't. Did he do the whole run, or did somebody else kind of step in at some point? Maybe that's why it's not numbered that way. But then why would it have 2?
No, I think there was 3 omnibus that were just George Perez omnibus.
Were they? And he done both the writing and the art, didn't he? For all of it, I think
so.
Yeah. Well, we read for the Nerd Herd, one of our first ever episodes of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. We read Gods Immortals, which it wouldn't have been a book that I would have ever picked up or read myself if it wasn't for the Nerd Herd, and I thought it was great. Really enjoyed it. A lot of this book, this omnibus, I suppose, kind of it's used for the movie a lot, I think, or the first Wonder Woman movie, and you can obviously see that. But I was entertained by it, and the art's fabulous. I think if you're not a fan of George Perez art, I don't know. I would question you. I actually prefer to read it and look at that more than Alex Ross, but. That's another story. But yeah, like I say, it was £32 on Amazon. I was just flicking through one day, and a company where you look at books on Amazon that came up like books you might be interested in. It's like, oh, yeah, £32. It's like, what? Like, is that right? So I bought it thinking that would maybe catch on and not deliver it, or say something's wrong with it or whatever. And they obviously honoured it. But I can remember when it was released earlier on this month. It had been out for a few days, but mine hadn't been dispatched. And I went into the normal listing, and they had it for, say, £50 or £60, whatever it was anyway. But they were in stock, so they obviously haven't dispatched now at this point. and I
Yeah.
got mine dispatched like the next day. So I don't know if they were thinking about it, or maybe they didn't have so many books at this kind of price point that they wanted to release more at the cheaper price. But I don't know. It was so weird.
Probably got too many orders after
That's what I was
that price
thinking.
point.
Yeah, 100%. But they've done the same thing with Swamp Thing Absolute. At one stage, it was like £25.
Yeah.
And I stupidly, like, I remember I bought it or ordered it, I should say, and I thought they're never going to honor that. So I cancelled my order like an idiot. I should just kept it. Like, what did it matter? It was £25 for an Absolute book, and now that goes for. I mean, you're not getting the first Absolute Swamp Thing for less than cover now, I don't think. And obviously you have the other two. But my problem with this is, now that I have the first one, I'm going to want 2 and 3 if they reprint them again. I think you can still get 3, volume 3. I think, could be wrong, but volume 2 I think is out of print. But if
that's where it ends up costing you more down the line.
Exactly. So if I want
having to pay more for the other one.
If I want the full run, I'm going to have to buy the other 2. But I'll read this anyway and decide if I want to get the full run. But
what I have been trying to do recently with Omnibus, I've noticed a few shops, because the prices have kind of been going up due to like inflation and stuff. I've noticed that some of the shops in the UK have upped their recommended retail price and some of them haven't. So if you look at, like, say, Forbidden Planet's prices, although they are pretty good on a pre-order, sometimes because they've upped the overall price of books, say, to 140 or something, they're now quoting the book at being like £70. Whereas if you go to, say, Speedy Hen, they might still be quoting the book at 100. So then they're going to quote it in at like 55, 57. So there's been a few times that I've actually caught and moved my pre-order to another store because I could drop £20 in cost because of their RRP.
But then Speedy Hen, I think, have let themselves down recently. I know there's been a lot of issues with them at the minute not fulfilling pre-orders. So maybe they're taking too many pre-orders than they can obviously fulfill. And I think, I could be wrong, I want to talk about a turn. I think Sonic's Comics had something recently where nothing about didn't show.
I mean, I've had a couple of things that I pre-ordered recently. There was the No Man's Land book 2, and there was the American Vampire. Both of those got pre-ordered, and then on the pre-order date said weren't available. But then about a week later, then became available. So I've got the No Man's Land one, and the American Vampire one's literally being shipped like today.
Okay.
So if I have to wait an extra week or something to get it, I'm not really worried. If they cancel my order, then okay, yeah, sure, I have to then go back and pay Forbidden Planet's price, but I'm no worse off than I was.
Yeah.
So it's only really if something's really rare, if something ends up like that Gail Simone Wonder Woman omnibus that just disappeared, or apparently the 70 Eternity book was a short run print. Once that's gone, there's no more to grab from the big distributors, so they can't then fulfill it, and you're kind of stuck then, because then you have to pay scalping prices or whatever the case may be, try and hunt around to find a copy. But I don't really have anything right now that I'm like, I must have this. So like if it slipped out of my hands, I just wait until I can kind of get it later. I have ended up in a similar position to you, the Wonder Woman thing, though, with Teen Titans, because I bought one of the Teen Titans omnibus recently, just because I found it reasonably cheap. And now I'm obviously in for all 5 because I can't read like 4 by itself.
Yeah. And actually, you mentioned 7 to Eternity. Sorry, it wasn't Sonic's Comics that had problems with Speedy Hen for that. There was a few other guys on Instagram. I think Dino had a problem with it. He had a pre-order with Speedy Hen for 7 to Eternity, and they didn't fulfill that. But 7 to Eternity is, I think, still on Amazon. It's take your chances that you're going to get a pristine book and not a dented.
It's still on Amazon. And to be honest, like, I've had no issues with like replacing stuff on Amazon. What I tend to do is, if like I get something that's damaged, rather than returning that one, order the second one or a third one or however many you need to order till you get one in good condition, then return all of them, kind of thing. And with Prime you can get them like next day delivery. So
yeah,
I don't like order one and then return it, and then the one that comes is like worse than the one that I had or anything like that. I would just order 2 or 3 and then pick the best and then return them.
I've recently done that myself to make sure I get the best book that I could possibly get.
Because it could be totally hit and miss if you get that book padded in a box, or if it's just thrown in with one piece of card, or what it is. So, if they're going to take their chances, then that's their money, not mine.
100%, I agree. Sonic's Comics is saying his issue, actually, you're right. from Speedy Henny was getting damaged books, and packaging was getting worse and worse. I definitely find like Forbidden Planet is by far the most superior packaging you'll get.
Oh yeah.
But even recently, so I got something recently I don't have here, and it was in a smaller box because they usually kind of put it in a padded envelope in a mailer in a box surrounded by paper. But I got a smaller box, no mailer, and just wrapped in bubble wrap. And it was really, it was still really good packaging. Don't get me wrong, it was still really kind of safe in that box. But like, I think, God, they must be cutting corners up there in Forbidden Planet as well now.
They're not. I can vouch. I've had a few recently.
Just missing parts of the book.
Like,
Is that...
yeah. I had one once from Forbidden Planet that was poorly packaged, and it must have been like somebody's first day or something.
Yeah.
They gave me a smaller box, so the box, like if you were to lie a book flat, would have maybe taken a normal omnibus, and they had like a library edition or something. I think it was my Nocturnal's Omnibus 2 or something, the big library edition book, and they just put it like corner to corner, like in the box, so that it fit across the box, no padding whatsoever, and then just close the box. So because those corners are right up against the edges of the box, when the box gets rattled, that all got dinged up, and I ended up having to get a replacement. But what I've started doing with Forbidden Planet now, because I've kind of learned their game, is if you go on their website and fill out their little form, they then email you back like a day later saying, can you send me pictures? So what I've done is actually save the email address that actually sends to in my contacts, and I just send an email directly to that, attach pictures and all the information straight away, and then they don't have to ask me.
It's a day off the whole process, or a day or two.
Yeah,
quicker.
Cuts about 2 days off the process.
That sounds good.
And usually they just go, here's a label.
Yeah. Excellent. Guys, they were fantastic pickups. Some of which I will probably pick up myself. So thanks for that. But yeah, I do have all our points here to talk about for the show, but I didn't realize it'll be over an hour. But I'm going to continue on. Do we have any recent reads you want to talk about? We'll do one read each. Do you have anything that you're currently reading or you've read that you want to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of grabbed 2 books because there was one I was enjoying and one that I've kind of not enjoyed as much. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a problem. The more information, the better. So, well, since you're still looking for yours, Adam, do you want to take it away, Highland G, and show your 2?
Sure. So at the minute...
Sorry, am I going or is Adam going?
Adam will go, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, we'll do Adam.
Sorry. Yeah, The Boys. I'm reading The Boys. I'm near the end of book 2. So yeah, everyone keeps banging on about how good the show is, and I haven't been watching the show because I want to read the book first. And they've just released all these 3 omnis, so yeah, I've been trying to get through them. Which then, once I'm done, I'll probably watch the show as well. So yeah, I'm over halfway through the story. It's really enjoyable. I'm digging it. I think I did watch like 1 or 2 episodes, and I've heard things about the show, and it does seem like it's probably quite different to the show. I don't know if anyone's read and watched it, can probably confirm. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I haven't really read much Garth Ennis, but yeah, it's been quite a nice, easy kind of not too serious read. So yeah.
Yeah, The Boys is on my radar, to be fair. But again, those omnibus came out, I think, was volume 1 delayed. So then whenever it came out, like the week later was volume 2, and like the week after that was volume 3.
Yeah,
that's 3 books in like less than a month. It's like, I don't know if I could do that. So those are the kind of things that put me off with pre-orders, but I definitely want to pick them up. I still think you can get them. They're not out of print or anything. Sure, they're not.
I haven't even checked.
I don't think they are. I've seen them on sites. I think Forbidden Planet still might have some of them, but yeah.
That's the kind of thing that as well makes me actually like, I wouldn't have probably read this by now if they drip fed them out over like the next 2 years, because I always wait till I've got like the whole series before I start.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they can't win on that one because either they put out too many books and people can't afford it, or you don't buy it because if it's not complete, you're not going to read it.
Yeah.
Is the binding sewn on those? I've kind of got a mixed kind of impression of different people. Like, does it lift up at all, or is it?
It's a difficult one. It's like It's kind of sewn, but kind of glued. I don't know if you've seen. I did a video on
You did the glue, yeah.
what was it, the Last Ronin Deluxe
Mhm.
Edition, where I kind of noticed that from the top view, it looks like it's all signatures and it's all separate signatures and it's kind of glued as well as sewn. But there's, it's like a sewn binding with glue on. But then you
Yeah.
look at the bottom, and the signatures aren't there. It's just kind of like glued straight into the spine
Like it's spliced.
ribbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't understand why we're all of a sudden seeing books that do this. I don't know if they're printed in the same place. I haven't checked.
So
but,
do you
like,
think it's actually sewn, or that it was just folded into signatures and not cut very well?
I think it's sewn. I'm pretty sure. It's hard to tell.
Because why would
It's
you
quite
cut
a
it
tight-
after sewing it? It doesn't really
It's
make
a-
any sense.
It's quite a tight binding, but yeah, honestly, I've never seen anything like this until recently, so I haven't really, I don't think.
I'm always intrigued when they do something weird with binding. So that's why I haven't kind of picked it up. The other book that stood out to me was the Monstrous Deluxe a while ago, where it was glued, but it was glued in sections, so it actually lifts and spreads really well.
Yeah,
but it's a fully glued spine, which is just strange.
Yeah, I think for stuff like this, it's not ideal, because if it's a bigger book, the glue, especially, well, not even if it's a bigger book, on my Last Ronin, because they've glued it so much, when you separate some of the pages, the glue seeped up and it tears the image. And
I hate
like,
that. Especially a black page.
Yeah, I've got a really bad example of that. On my Last Ronin, it was quite heartbreaking, especially the point at the story where it happened at. It was like, oh. So yeah, I'm maybe gonna try and get, like, if they reprint that, I wonder if they'll reprint it and it will be like properly sewn again. Or the only thing I can think that maybe that they've done is when they've printed the pages, they were like angled or something, so they've had to slice it so it's straight, and then they've glued half of it and sewn half of it, or like, I just can't. I just can't think why
cut the front edge and not the back edge.
Yeah, I'm just doing mental gymnastics trying to, like.
Yeah, I mean, all I can think of is that they folded the pages rather than cut them individually, stacked it all in a book, and then cut them as a book, but didn't cut them all. That's why it would look like it's half signatures and half not, but then you wouldn't have actually sewn it then. You'd have just
you'd have just glued the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Can you see actual stitching if you look in the book?
It's hard because I don't want to pull the pages apart that much,
to see,
because there's glue in there, right? So
just because that's the definitive, if you see a page that's got the white stitching all the way down it, then you know for certain. But yeah, it's weird with the binding on some of those things. The other one I've noticed with Boom is they tend to have gone really light on the backing glue. So like the actual binding's connected together and sewn quite well. But they've just put like the thinnest layer of glue actually holding what holds it to the actual book. So then when you spread it, it's almost like 1 out of 3 books now I have to return as a Boom book, regardless if it's in perfect condition from the seller, because the binding just falls to bits.
Yeah. I mean, it's like kind of the opposite of what people complain about with DC, where there's like millimeters worth of
it makes me actually respect DC's choice in some ways. Exactly. I'm like, you know what, their books won't fall to bits.
Yeah.
Excellent. But The Boys, definitely, it's something it's on my radar, and I've watched the TV show.
Digital.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got it as a Humble bundle recently. I got it's called like the Boys and the Girls bundle or something like that.
I vaguely remember that. You would often share the that stuff. I think on Instagram, or no, it's Dean shares it. I remember seeing it. I considered it myself, but
if there's like a big one, I'll try and share. But it's kind of out, because I don't think there's a lot of people aware that Humble Bundle does digital content. And the cool thing with their content is it's completely sort of DRM free. So basically, you can store it on any cloud devices or anything you want, copy it to as many friends as you want, and there's no tracking of that file. And in a lot of cases, you're getting the equivalent of like 10 trades for the less than price of one. So
100%, yeah. There was one, like Image had one as well, maybe last year at some point, and they had like maybe 50 books at some stage, and it was quite
Yeah.
like say 20. It's like,
But even
also
then,
different-
yeah, it's like 20, 25 pounds.
yeah,
It's not. It's
there's
not
like
crazy,
different
yeah.
tiers as well. You can pay more if you really want, but he wants to just pay the cheapest amount there, pretty much.
I usually go in and you can change the filter of how much goes to the charity and how much goes to Humble as well. I usually give more to the charity just because I feel that like they're the ones that the whole thing's for.
Martin's saying, don't forget to pick up the Dear Becky hardcover to have everything. Again, not knowing the boys too much, I think there's a lot of people are kind of thinking, why didn't you include that in those 3 omnibus? You know?
I bought the separate edition that they did that came out. I think it might have been between when they were releasing these 3, or it's definitely around the same time, expecting it to be the same format, but it's actually standard sized hardcover rather than like oversized, which is a bit of a missed opportunity. But either way, I've got it. I can read it when I think
it's like the separate books they did for Walking Dead as well. They don't quite match up, like the side stories.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
So, Highland G, what have you read recently? Those 2 books you referred to, the one you liked and one you didn't?
Yeah, so as I've been kind of going back and forth between kind of 2, so the one I've been reading at work is Fables. This is the deluxe edition, so this is book 10, and this is as far as I've got. I think I'm basically going to stop because it's just burnt me out, to be honest. The whole 15.
Oof, okay. You're almost to the end. You might as well continue on.
Well, you say that, but they get thicker as the book's going to go on as well. So it's probably still about maybe 40% or so of the run. But the thing is, you go in with this whole premise, which is that there's a few fables that have escaped this world that has all of the kind of fables in it, and they've come to the human world, or as they refer to it as the kind of Monday world, and their world's been overthrown by this kind of oppressor that's kind of taken over all the different regions and stuff are kind of going on. So the first like 2 or 3 hardcovers is like figuring out who the person is that's kind of been doing this, and then you get a further maybe couple of hardcovers of like back and forth between different members of the 2 kind of sides. When you get to the actual action, it takes place in like an issue. So like the actual war that the lead up to over like 7 volumes is about 1 issue long, which I was really disappointed in. I was like, really? And then after that, they just start telling like side and other stories because they now don't have a big bad. So they're kind of trying to create a big bad while telling side stories, and it just drags on. It feels like, without insulting the writers, it feels like they were paid by the word rather than paid to write a kind of concise story. I read a few things around this recently. Like I reread Pulp, and Pulp's like 72 pages or something, and I feel like I got more out of those 72 pages than I got out of 10 volumes of this, which is crazy. So I've been kind of doing this on my Goodreads as I've been going through. I've been kind of rating them and giving a little just quick kind of spiel as I've kind of been going through, because some of them have actually hit really well, and I've been, oh, this was really good fun, and then the next volume is just like super downhill. The only thing I would say is that one thing I didn't expect to get out of the book is to see Little Boy Blue as probably one of the strongest fables of all time. Like this guy is made out to be a super badass. He's basically the last standing member of like 4 or 5 wars that have kind of gone on. He's been like the witness to them kind of thing. And at one point he gets this cloak that is kind of like Cloak and Dagger's cloak kind of thing. He can kind of like transport from place to place, but he can hold stuff in it as well. So he can put as much infinite stuff into the cloak itself and then transport from one place to another and then kind of unload it. And he also gets this sword, which basically if it hits anything, it dies. So regardless of what your fable status is or what you have on it, you're basically dead. And at one point, he goes off on like a one-man rampage, like separate from the war, and it actually lasts more issues than the war does, of him just taking on places in the Fable land. And it was actually really good fun. So as I said, there's parts in there that I enjoyed, but if I was to say to my personal recommendation, I would read it if you want to up until the war, and then once the end of the war, just stop, because there's not much to read kind of beyond that. And I've read so many other fable related things like Grimm's fairy tales and like Zenoscope books and stuff like that that do better takes on fables kind of coming into the real world, that this just didn't really do it for me. And then the one thing that bugged me the most, which another YouTube channel actually said they really enjoyed, but it kind of really annoyed me, was that when they were doing any stories about specific characters, which there won't be one in this book for me to find, but when they were doing stories about specific characters, they had like surrounds around the pages. I can't find any on this specific book, but they would have basically had like surrounds around each page, kind of like looking like an old school kind of fable book type thing. But my problem was that it was the same surround on both pages, so across the center page they didn't actually connect.
Oh, okay.
So every time I was looking at it, I was seeing this misconnected center section between two backdrops, and it just kind of bugged me a little bit. So
that would bug me too, to be honest. I think Fables is something again. It gets a lot of high praise again. I think it's just one of those things that, for me personally, I find daunting to read, because there's like say 15 volumes. I actually didn't think there was that many, but that's quite a lot. And you're not even.
It's 3 compendiums if you buy it that way. I think.
I think it's four. It's four. Yeah.
It just seems like something I will never get into, because I'll never have the time to dedicate to it. But no, I think
I spread it out, and I think that's how I got as far as I did. But I've been reading it maybe 2 or 3 issues at work across maybe a 6-month period.
Do you have the remaining volumes? Or are you going to?
I have the complete set. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So this was a couple of years back now. I spent a bit of time just hunting them all down, and I was buying various bundles and reselling them and stuff so that I could get them. So I've had the complete set for probably over a year and just never actually got to it. And I was like, okay, I should read this, because if nothing else, if I hate it, that's an entire Calyx Cube I get back if I sell those books.
Yeah,
true.
Some of them are worth quite a lot now as well. I think some of them are stupidly out print.
I think 4 and 7 were the ones that were hard to get, if I remember correctly, when I first kind of.
Let's say, hopefully, if you do decide to sell them on, like say the idea of having like a free cube to fill again, but also if they fetch a pretty penny on eBay, by all means. Like I say, it seems like you're close towards the end. As you said, the volumes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you're still 40% away, do you want to go through all that kind of pain and suffering to get to the end of that?
To be honest, if the climax of the entire thing had been the war, no matter how bad it was, I probably would have pushed through. But the fact that we've basically now
you've had it
finished the story and we're just doing extra stories, I'm like, I don't need to read 5 volumes of extra stories. And from what I understand, because I tried to avoid spoilers, but I have watched a few reviews from other people on it. What's the major arc of the leftover story is basically that Rose Red, who is Snow White's sister, decides that they have to face off, because all sisters in their family have to face off, so only one can survive or something. And they just lead up to this face-off, building up their teams and doing their whole kind of thing. And at the end, Rose Red decides not to have the face-off, and they just walk away. And I was like, well, I don't need to read 4 volumes for that.
No, definitely not. Yeah. It does seem a shame, though, I think, just for that reason. But yeah, you've got a good book.
Yeah, I've got a good book, yeah. So I've been reading Captain America. I'm on to the last volume of the omnibuses. So I've actually been reading the Captain America stuff, and what I enjoyed of the kind of Avengers things that kind of ties in. So I read like Dark Avengers, Civil War, some other kind of stuff that kind of tied in around that. I've just been going through the Brubaker omnibus overall. The first 3 volumes are great. I think it's like almost the best Captain America story that I've kind of read. But in some ways, it's not a Captain American story. It's a Bucky story. And then in the 4th omnibus, Captain America basically retakes over his mantle, and it's a little bit janky how he kind of, it doesn't flow great out of the previous kind of omnibus, and they do like a super soldier series and kind of start doing kind of some kind of side stuff. And so that was the last omnibus I read, and while it was good to okay kind of Marvel, it wasn't Brubaker's standard, of the first sort of 3 volumes. And then this one, which I'm only just starting now, is basically Bucky's side. So Bucky's going back to taking on the mantle of Winter Soldier. He's kind of, as far as the heroes are concerned, dead, and he's going to use his mantle for the greater good to undo some of the stuff basically that was kind of done by him when he was under the influence kind of thing. So I have read this previously in trades. I've never read it since I got it as an omnibus. I did get it as I think it's got a remainder mark on it somewhere, because because I got it really cheap at the time. It was like an end of line before they started reprinting all the Captain America omnibuses. So I think I got it for like £40 or something at the time. But I've really, really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite runs. Even people who don't like Ed Brubaker's crime stories, I find like his Captain America run. So it's one that I would really recommend checking out, along with the Iron Fist, which is getting a reprint soon as well.
Yes, you said about those books getting reprinted. They started to reprint them. The first 3 volumes are reprinted because I have them. We're just waiting on 4 and 5, and you see books getting announced all the time, and it's not. They're not.
As I say, as far as the Winter Soldier story is concerned, you can read the first 3.
Yeah.
Basically, at the end of the third one, is basically Steve saying to Bucky that he can keep the mantle as Captain America, and then when we start Volume 4, it's kind of missed something in Fear itself, I think, and then Steve's taken over as Captain America. So there's actually a break between those 2 books. So you can read 1 to 3 by themselves, and then read 4 as and when it comes.
Because I'm a bit like Adam in that respect too. I'm kind of waiting to get all 5 to read it. But now that you've said that, I think I might just, because I really want to get into them because I think
It's
so
really
good.
good.
They're very highly recommended. So I think that might be one of my next book to pick up then, is the first volume of that and get stuck into it. But yeah, I think, again, obviously, I don't know how much is taken into the movies, but that, I think, inspired the movies, didn't it?
And if you don't have them, they're going really cheap as well right now. There's a few of them on Forbidden Planet for like 30 quid.
Oh, really? Excellent. So,
Yeah.
guys, if you're watching, get on that, because I think I paid full retail for them at the time. Because I think with Marvel reprints, you always get the impression that they're never going to reprint this again, especially if it's like the 4th or 5th time they've done it.
Well, I think with Forbidden Planet getting DM covers and regular covers, whichever cover doesn't sell as well, they tend to reduce afterwards. Yeah. But I mean, if you get the book half price, who cares what cover's on it?
Yeah. Well, you say that, but one thing that's actually bugged me recently with covers is I have with my store, I have the Finn Omnibus, Donny Cates one, ordered with them, and I ordered the cover that I wanted, but then they've switched the covers recently. So what was going to meant to be the DM variant is now the standard cover, and vice versa. So I ordered the standard cover, but because now that's on order and it's out soon, I'm not sure if they can change it, or maybe it's just a bit of a ball ache to change it. But I'm going to get the standard cover. That's what I've ordered with my shop. But like, I want the other cover. I want the DM cover. But
then there must be a bunch of people that ordered the DM cover that want the standard cover.
You would think so, but it's just I don't know why Marvel do it so late in the game to switch the covers.
Because I wouldn't care so much if they had a DM cover and they just decided they didn't like that DM cover and changed it to a different DM cover. I mean, I'd be annoyed that it wasn't the art I wanted, but if it was just one cover that was affected, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Flipping which cover after orders are taken seems really underhand.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like Forbidden Planet are quite good in terms of their prices are the same. The store I use, their price will be the same. But I know there are some stores, I'm not going to name them in case it's a bad thing, they will charge slightly more for the DM variant. Maybe £5 or £10. I'm not really sure.
I've seen
not
on
much more.
Reads that charge more for.
So if you've ordered the DM and now they've switched it, you're going to be getting charged that price. And say you don't know, you're not aware they've switched it, then you get the book arrives and it's the correct DM variant, and you'd pay that extra £10 for it. But that was the standard that you had booked or ordered 3, 4, 5 months ago, and you just didn't know. So it is really frustrating from Marvel's point of view. I don't know why they do it. They've done it a few times. They've switched the covers. It would bug me certainly. And like say, if you're ordering from Reeds and you're paying the extra £5 or £10 for it,
I mean, if you're paying more for it, then definitely you should be getting the cover that you're paying for. I'm not arguing that, but going the other way, if you're getting a book that would normally be like £100 for like 30, then I can buy a dust jacket.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like.
I know a guy, Adam, who does dust jackets.
Don't know what you're talking
about. So yeah, thanks very much. Again, I'm looking forward to getting into that Captain America run. But I will finish. I'll give my quick recent read, and then we'll just run through the stuff coming in November very quickly, and then we'll wrap this up. So I picked up. It's actually a pickup as well, and I read this last night, and it is Callie, and it is from Dark Horse Comics. This is something complete blind by. Didn't know anything about it. I've seen a few people talk about it on Instagram. I thought that looks quite good art. It's like I'm going to pick this up, and I got it from. I completely forget, but it was cheap. And I thought again, I'm going to have to get that because the price and people are enjoying it. The art is fantastic. What this is about, it's like a post-apocalyptic world where they have this like an authority called the Machine, which is like the kind of overall government who whatever, and then you have various biker gangs who are like the rebels. One of the biker gangs is called the Matrakas, I think it's pronounced, which is a female gang, and basically they vote on joining the Machine because they're fed up of getting hunted down or killed. They want to survive, so they're going to join the Machine after all. But their leader kind of like, well, not a chance. So it's like a mutiny. They stab her in the back, leave her for dead, then she's picked up by a patrol unit, and it's just all action from like the first few pages, constant from start to finish, complete action, and it kind of reminds me slightly of like the Black Widow book. Was it the Mark Waid one, where it was just more action than actual like substance of a story type of thing? But like some of this art, it's oversized. I want to say gallery edition, maybe, or maybe it's library edition. I'm not 100%.
When you get Samney's art, it's typically like action focused.
Yeah, well, the artist on this is Robert Samelin. Never heard of him. And the writer's Daniel Friedman. Never heard of him either. So
I saw some preview art though. It's a nice looking book. I nearly picked it up just for that, but I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 hardcovers I saw recently, both in my local comic shop and on Forbidden Planet, that I was like, oh, should I buy that? I don't know why I'm being compelled to buy these, but there was like, three of them. There was that one. Yeah. There was one called like The White Blouse or something, and there was one called, I forget what the third one was. I didn't buy them, but I almost bought them several times.
The only thing I'll say about the art, and the art is really good. Like, it's really gritty looking. It's definitely something that I enjoy looking at. But when they have, it's one of those ones where they have an image where there's people in the background. They haven't been bothered to put a face on them. It's just
blank. I don't mind that. That's fine.
Okay.
I do and I don't. Like, I get why they do it, because they spend too much detail elsewhere in the page, but at the same time, maybe they just can't do it. Maybe it's just so small that they just can't really fit it in or whatever. But I mean, just do it, a couple of dots and a smile. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it depends on the artist. For me, I mean, the thing is, like, if they draw it much bigger, then obviously they can draw in all those details and then scale it down. So if they're drawing pretty much at book size or maybe just double size, they might not be able to do those details in the same way. But for me personally, I'd rather have the blank face than like a bad face, because I actually really dislike if the person up close has like detailed eyes and the person in the background has dots. Like I really don't like that. So I'd rather just dead a blank face, or maybe even just like put a shadow on the face so that I can't, see their eyes that well. The other thing that bugged me a little bit when I was reading Chew was he still had his sketch lines on the faces in the background, so you'd have like the middle line, the cross, and it looked like kind of sketch dummies, and that totally took me out of some of the scenes. I was like, that doesn't fit.
I never noticed that in Chew. Was it that? Yeah. Was it that apparent? Because it
was reasonably prevalent for me to point out.
I'm ignorant, to be fair. So,
but it's just background faces. It was only ever the background faces. Okay. They would have this kind of line, and he could have just erased it, but he didn't.
Yeah. See, like, the thing is with stuff like that is I don't mind them not focusing on the background stuff, because it's the same as if you're like doing photography or whatever. You'd have like the main thing in focus and the background might be completely blurry or whatever.
It's called bokeh, isn't it? Like bokeh effect, isn't it?
Or just, it's just focus. So like I don't mind them doing a similar thing in the comics where it's like, the background characters are just,
and even a basic background is better sometimes than people who just won't draw backgrounds, because like then you lose the context of the scene.
Yeah, unless it's for a purpose, but that's like, just lazy, I guess.
I have to address Chris's comment. He said, "Did you say good art or good arse?" I know why you bought it. And to be fair, I'm not going to lie to you. This image on the front cover,
there's a Black Widow pose right there.
It drew me in. I'll say that. But yeah, the story overall is really good. Like I say, she's starts hunting down her old gang who left her for dead type of thing. But she fights one of them early on and gets injected with poison. So she chooses, like, she's got choices. That can go back 20 hours and find a plant that's going to save her, or follow the gang who betrayed her. So it's life or death, and obviously she picks to follow her gang. So it's a really good all-action book, taking down her old gang members, taking down the Machine, and
So she's the leader who's betrayed.
She's the leader who was betrayed. And again, it's not the most kind of deep thought book. It's just a really good, fun, all-out action book. And yeah, like I can't fault it. I had so much fun with it. There were a few times I was trying to find in there, but I've lost track of it, where some of the dialogue, like they used like the wrong words. Like instead of when, they had like, oh, what was it? They used it different, like, I can't remember in what context, but
Is it translated?
no, I don't think so. Like, it doesn't seem like it's a European book. It doesn't say it's translated from anywhere else, but
A lot of Dark Horse books are still translated, though. If you
Are
look
they?
in the first page or so of the book, it'll normally tell you. It'll have like all the copyrights, and it'll say like translated by. It'll have like a company's name or a person's name if it's been translated normally.
Not that I can
But
see
like
this quickly,
Dark
but,
Horse do quite a lot of translated books, and Boom do them under an Archaea print
Yeah.
as well. So you don't always know that a book's translated. But yeah, when I find that sometimes the grammar's a bit off, it's usually because someone's had to translate it at some point.
because we had that recently with on the Nerd Herd with Vampire State Building, which was a French book, and there were a few words that were just like didn't belong there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. So it's possible it could be translated. I don't actually see it.
I mean, it doesn't bother me if the rest of the book kind of flows still fine, and
Yeah.
if the art and stuff's still good. Then I'm not gonna like get rid of a book because they put in two
Yeah.
words somewhere that were wrong.
Totally didn't take me to the story or anything. It was such good fun. Artwork is great, and like I say, it needed that kind of gallery library edition book, and it's fairly cheap. And it's Dark Horse, so I know Chris is probably eyeing that up as well. Not just because of the good arse, but because it is Dark Horse, and you are a Dark Horse fan. So yeah, that's my
have a video already on the go.
Yeah, possibly. That's my my recent read. So, folks, I just kind of want to quickly. This is where it gets technical. I have to share my screen. If I do this correctly. Nope, it's gone. Where is it? There we go. I just kind
This is the bit I always have problems with StreamYard, trying to figure out which way the button order to get things to go up.
I know. There we go. I've got it. So this is just the website that I use. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of people do, called League of Comic Geeks. And it kind of shows you what books are coming out in the week ahead. So I just want to kind of skim through the month of November. Is that all right? So next week, I've only picked hardcovers, guys. So it's not like any trade paperbacks. I just kind of want to showcase how badly our pockets could potentially be hit in the next few weeks. The thing that stands out for me this coming week is Die hardcover, and I don't know if you guys have read Die. I know, Adam, you're a big D&D fan, so I'd
I've been
imagine
looking forward to this.
Yeah. So this is the hardcover deluxe. I think there's 20 issues in total. I actually collected the single issues in this. I only read the first arc. It's quite heavy. I don't mean heavy in a bad way, but I'm not a D&D guy, so there's a lot of stuff that I'm not really familiar with. But I definitely enjoyed it, and the art's fantastic. Stephanie Hans is the writer, and it's a Kieran Gillen book. So yeah, that's due out next week. One of possibly Marvel's biggest omnibus, Avengers versus X-Men. Again, I have the trade paperback off the main event. I don't know if I have the appetite to buy that big of an omnibus, because like it's $150 price point. I don't know how much Forbidden Planet would sell that for, maybe around the 100 mark. And I kind of spending like 3-figure sum on a book. That kind of worries me slightly. So I don't think I'll be picking that one up anyway. Are you guys picking that up?
I didn't even follow it when it came out, to be honest, because I remember when I got back into comics, it was around sort of Marvel Now, New 52 sort of era, and that's when I think just after that you got like Avengers versus X-Men, and then AVX was 2 separate series, if I remember correctly. And to be honest, at that point, it was just so daunting that I only read like what I considered kind of like B or C characters to read their own kind of separate stuff. So I would read like Kane's Scarlet Spider and X-23 and stuff like that, rather than read the main series, because I had no idea what to follow. So I'd be interested if it was a decent price to check it out, but it's not something that I've ever read.
Yeah, I've seen people on Instagram basically saying that they're not willing to pay that kind of price, but they're going to try and pick up the oversized hardcover off of the main event. So they'll still have it in the oversized format. But as per usual, Marvel do have a lot of tie-ins. I am tempted by this, to be honest. But
yeah, I've pre-ordered it just because there's event, I think, kicked off not long after I started reading, and I don't know, I've just got a bit of a soft spot for it. I never read much of the tie-ins, but like, I don't know, I just want to revisit.
Have you guys read a lot of X-Men, like in general?
I tried a few different times, to be honest. Kind of like what you said before, like even like the recent kind of Jonathan Hickman reboot or whatever you call it, like it gets carried away of itself at times, and it puts so many different books in. Like I remember, I says to my shop, "Give me X-Men, just the X-Men main book. I'll read that." And I was reading it and really enjoying it. But then like issue 2, somebody died in a different book, and it was X-Force. I was like, right, okay, so I had to go pick up X-Force, and then it tied in with Hellions. It's like I can't buy them all. I'm sorry, I'm not putting all the books on my list. I can't do it. So that kind of brings me out of it. By all means, kind of have maybe the other event to kind of relate to one another. But when you start putting things in different books that very much impact the next issue of a series of a separate title, I can't do it. So I think X-Men have been guilty of that for quite a lot of years.
I think it's one of the biggest things that I find an issue with X-Men is that like you can read individual books, and individual books are quite good, and they don't rely on the event as such, but the event very much relies on the individual books in some ways. So like whenever I've read any mainstay sort of X-Men books, they tend to come down to the same thing. Like some leader of some kind is trying to defend the X-Men against the humans. They try and get some sort of sanctuary that they set up either on an island or a plane or wherever they get a place that they can kind of stay. Eventually that goes wrong, and then somebody gets the blame and ostracized from their people, and then rinse and repeat. Like I don't find the X-Men ever really get an end game. There's never really any massive big bad to overcome. It's really just oppression getting overdone. Whereas the individual stories I love, like some of the individual, like I read a Magneto standalone story, I think it was by Soul, if I remember correctly, and it was so good because it got really into the sort of Jewish background and all the build up into the war and stuff like that, and let you into his psyche a lot more rather than trying to juggle 20 characters.
And kind of what you're saying there too about even the current Hickman stuff, it starts off slightly different. Like they do have their own island, Krakoa, but it's like their own form government. They're trying to be part of like the UN and stuff, and they have stuff they can offer the world in terms of like the plants they grow that could be used for drugs and so on. But then again, I jumped off it because I was getting too mad. But then my understanding is now it's what you're saying. They've kind of got lost in how to end this. And a lot of fans are just kind of hoping for this Krakoan era to end once again and just start again. So, but
then what they'll have to do is they'll have one of the X-Men either lose a fight or have to stab them in the back so they lose Krakoa or whatever, it gets taken down, and then that person will get ostracized. And again, it'll repeat the same stuff. Like,
Adam,
it's just a little bit repetitive for me, a little bit. Like I love stories when they try something a little bit different. So I tend to find that I like underdogs and side characters, and it was actually something that I found out by just being intimidated by a lot of the larger runs. So I would look at Batman and I'd be like, there's 40 Batman books. You know what? I'll read Nightwing. And I'd go to like all the X-Men books and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm not going to read all the X-Men books. What I'll read is X-23. Oh, X-23 ties into X-Force. Okay, I'll read that. And that ties into like Agent Venom. So I'll read that. But I'm not going to read Spider-Man, and I'm not going to read, like the other bigger kind of things. So my Marvel reading is very weird. It's a lot of little offshoots of stuff kind of here and there, unless it's an older kind of classic run, as I said, like the Ed Brubaker stuff or something like that. But even then, you could argue that Brubaker's Captain America is a Winter Soldier story and not a Captain America story.
That's true.
Rogers story.
Yeah.
So.
So yeah, Adam, you're picking this up. To be fair, I'm almost tempted. Just I know it's quite a hefty price, but that just tells me that it's
72 quid. I think it was brought down to on Forbidden Planet.
So that's not too bad, actually.
A bit under RRP, I guess.
Yeah. Just saying hello, guys, to Andy from
How big it is?
It's massive. It's the same kind of size as the War of the Realms omnibus. I think it literally says on the back it's Marvel's biggest omnibus. So
I seen Organic Price Books had a video today with the next week's releases, and they basically compared it like the thickness of the book, and it's literally like a millimeter thicker than War of the Realms. So it's like technically it might be their biggest book, yes, but
I just worry with Marvel books getting that big with their paper being so thin.
Yeah. But then I've had this kind of thing recently. It was Martin who was saying about his DC books. He's getting a lot of sag, and the blocks are sagging off the kind of hardcover, and they obviously do have thick omnibus because they do have thicker paper stock. But then, are you kind of sacrificing that kind of paper quality to have a thinner block that's less likely to fall down or fall off?
I mean, I think the sag is I mean, you can argue sag, but the thing that I think with the DC books is the fact that the glue is so thick. So once you flex the book up, the book never really sits flat again, back into that heel, if you like. So because of that, you're always going to have that slight arch that's now pushing forward, and therefore that's going to somewhat push your block forward on the kind of shelf. I mean, as I said, you can get these shoes and stuff for your shelf, but to be honest, I don't think it's an issue. If your book if your book sags 2 millimeters, which is like the height difference of the hardcover from the block, it's not going to ruin your binding. I wouldn't worry about it as long as your books are sitting nicely together and it's not like open sagging and falling into itself. You know, I don't think it's a problem. The thing with the Marvel books, I think that they don't have that problem is because their binding is so like the glue is so thin and the pages are so thin that it flexes really easily. So therefore it falls back into the block and therefore stays in a bit nicer. I don't think it's the weight that makes any difference. But my worry is that when you move a page, when you've got quite a heavy book, you almost naturally are slightly more aggressive with that page. And my worry is that I'll just yank a page out.
Yeah.
You know, and that scares the hell out of me with some of these Marvel books.
Kind of touched on that point as well, and back to some of our pickups, like the book Adam had and the Incal. Like Chris's biggest issue with both the big two right now is the stories are not new or gripping, but the build of the books are absolutely shocking compared to other publishers. I definitely think that the other guys are putting more effort into their books than the build quality. You know, you're getting that more premium feel to it. Where Marvel are definitely, they are really thin. Don't get me wrong. Like you can still read the book, but it is annoying when you look through a page in Marvel and you can see the panel outline on the following on the next side. They're obviously using.
This is the thing. Yeah,
it's a money thing, I suppose. Like they cut the cost to sell the most books, make the most profit. But with the smaller publishers, like Humanoids. And was that Fantagraphics, Adam? That one?
Yeah.
So like they're obviously.
And I think you can go too far the other way as well. I mean, some of the Edbury Baker books and the Rick Remender books are so thick paper that by the time you've read them, the whole book leans one way, and you have to flip it the other way to get the binding to go back and sit straight again. So like they're almost too high a quality that it goes against the reading experience as well. So there's a nice middle ground, I think, where you can have flexible pages that are durable.
I just think IDW, the lock and key stuff, the TMNT stuff, that's probably my favorite.
Dark Horse is probably a good middle ground. Yeah.
Well, that Dark Horse one I read last night, Kalia, was a good thick paper and good quality. Like it's a thinner book, so I can't really comment too much on the stitching.
The Dark Horse library editions in most cases are like £30 to £40, and you're getting the same amount of content as a Marvel omnibus, like small omnibus.
Yeah, definitely. So just kind of pushing on with what else is out. I did see a comment from Mortensen, his Miles Morales.
I'll probably get that Shadow War hardcover just because they're not going to do it in a trade.
The Shadow War? What one's that? Oh yeah,
so
that's the Batman.
That's the crossover with it's Batman, Deathstroke, and Robin.
Is it 6 issues in total?
I think so. I think it's 2 of each. Like I don't think it's like an event as such. I think there's like an opening issue and a closing issue, and then there's like 1 or 2 issues out of each of the runs.
See, the thing I don't like about DC at the minute, I don't know why they do the standard hardcover, but they don't do oversized hardcover shit. They just do the omnibus. They don't do on the absolute opposite.
I hate it. Like I've basically abstained from any 99% of them. But if there's no way I'm going to get it in a trade, like what else am I supposed to do?
It's true.
Like I've been waiting for the Nightwing ones. I wanted to get them in a trade or in some sort of like deluxe OHC, and I don't think they've done either. I think there's like 3 small hardcovers out, and that's it.
There may be a paperback coming out, I think, fairly soon.
They might have announced the first trade, yeah. But the thing is, if they take this long to bring out one trade, I may as well wait until they do an omnibus.
Yeah, because I know Scott's waiting on the paperback himself. I'm not sure if it's got it ordered. and I think it might be due in December. Could be completely wrong.
Because it's shelf space if nothing else. So that a standard sized hardcover is like 2 trades, and I just can't give that shelf space.
We Live, that's another one from Aftershock Comics. I read the single issues of it. It was pretty impressive. I'm not familiar how Aftershock Comics, how their books live up in terms of their quality. I don't think I actually own anything from Aftershock Comics in hardcover form.
I've got that in trade, but I've never seen an Aftershock hardcover.
Yeah.
So I'm buying this again in hardcover just in case this is how they're just going to release it, because I really liked the first volume.
Yeah.
So if they keep doing it, I'll just pick up the hardcovers.
I've got Baby Teeth in the oversized hardcovers from pretty sure it's Aftershock.
And what's that build? Good quality.
Yeah. I mean, one of them I had to do my little kind of thing where I kind of poked behind it to get it to release because it was a little bit overglued. But once I actually stretched it, it was totally fine. Lifted up totally fine. But as I said, they brought out two hardcovers for that, and I think it's now an omnibus as well that's coming out. But I prefer just to have the 2 hardcovers.
Nice. Another one that might interest people: Extreme X-Men by Chris Claremont. Again, talk about X-Men. I have no interest in delving too much into that, although it is Chris Claremont. But that must be some 90s goodness, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think Claremont, like kind of like the George Perez Wonder Woman, is like a whole era. You kind of have to go into it. Dive in.
Yeah. Chris has got a few. What's he saying here? Sorry, Drawn on Quarterly, Fantagraphics, Jonathan Cape, Tumart, DH and D&Q. No idea what he's talking about. High quality sewn binding on their trade paperbacks. Never heard of DH. Don't know who they are as a publisher.
Dark Horse, I imagine.
Dark Horse, of course.
Yes. I think Drawn on Quarterly, D&Q.
Yeah. Okay, so much cheaper. The IPs are pushing their price up on the big 2. I think there's no question.
Yeah, I've seen Dark Horse sew some of their trade paperbacks. Not necessarily all of them, but some of them. And I've been really
sewn
surprised.
their trade paperbacks.
Sewn and then just glued in their trade paperbacks. Yeah.
To be fair, I have a funny feeling this wrestling. No, it's not glued, but because it has that kind of like, I don't know how to describe the French flaps on the cover. Like you think it would be a bit more premium of a book.
Yeah, they tend to go a slightly nicer card on the actual cover, and then, as I said, it's hit and miss. But you get some of them that are sewn.
Yeah, I think this is glued. This one. Yeah. So the following week, this is November the 9th. We've got Gideon Falls Deluxe Volume 2. I think you guys have both picked up the first one of that. I think.
Yeah, I was hoping that they'd have had that out by now, and I could have done like a spooky Halloween, read for both of them. But yeah, I'm not going to read Volume 1 till that.
I was holding off to get people's opinions on the whole thing because I wasn't a fan of it in trades when I started it, so I'm still just kind of holding off to see what people think.
The Flash by Mark Waid, Omnibus Volume 1. I know Sonics Comics is looking forward to that. He's a big Flash fan. It's not something
I've got that one on pre-order.
Really?
Yeah. Same.
I
got the other ones. I just want everything Wally West and oversized.
Yeah. Absolute Dark Knights Metal. Is this something you guys have?
No, I've been wanting to read. Yeah, I've been wanting to read the metal stuff for ages, but I think this is only really the main series, and I hear that there's lots of cool stuff in the tie-ins, so I'm going the omnibus route.
Yeah, so I had both the oversized hardcovers, and they're just the standard like 6 issues of the event. So I believe there was like 2 runs that went side by side like the event, so there would be like a sub team that was say ran by Nightwing and another sub team that would be ran by like Green Arrow or something, and those issues are not included in this, but when you get the omnibus, it includes that and all the individual one shots of the various Batman and so on.
Whenever Dark Knights Metal was being released in single issues, that's when I first started collecting single issue comics. So I have all the single issues off this. What I will say with the Absolute, the main kind of run is actually I think it's really good, really entertaining. What I will say, this Absolute omits the first 2 issues, which are pretty pivotal. It's called The Forge and the Casting, which explains how they get to this point. So this absolutely doesn't have those 2 issues. The omnibus it'll have everything. So that's why I think this is really kind of, I don't know why they're putting this out, because the omnibus is due in January.
The timing of that's really just like DC, what are you doing?
I'm pretty sure the deluxe editions are the same. I'm pretty sure the
Yeah.
deluxe editions don't include that.
Yeah.
Which is odd because I think, from what I can remember, you definitely need to read those 2 issues to really get a full understanding.
Yeah,
of why they are where they
it's
are.
weird. It's the same thing I would say with Death Metal. Is I read through Death Metal, and there was a few side issues that I read, and the Flash one is like absolutely pivotal to how Death Metal basically ends, and yet it's not included in the deluxe because it's the Flash issue. It's not
Yeah.
one of the Death Metal issues.
But yeah, so any folks watching this, I think you'd be better off. You'd be safer with the omnibus, and whenever Death Metal omnibus or comes out, get that as well because you'll get everything and you'll get the full story.
And
the
they're not
Ultimates,
that big an event, so they shouldn't be huge omnibus either. I don't think.
I'm pretty certain Death Metal had quite a significant amount extra tie-ins than Metal.
I mean, there was 3 or 4 trades worth of extra stuff, but I mean, 5 trades is not a massive omnibus.
Yeah,
not by kind of current scales.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, like the average New 52 omnibus that came out is about 25 to 30 issues. They're relatively slim.
They are. I thought you were talking about the New 52 omnibus came out a few weeks ago, which is that's a pretty
no,
big
just the New 52 runs.
We have the Ultimates here by Mark Miller. I've read the Ultimates. Really good fun read. Obviously the Ultimate Universes are usually quite popular, so I'd recommend if you haven't read that. Do you used to have that already, or do you have that in order or anything?
I'm picking it up, but I've not read it yet. But I've been meaning to read it for years. So yeah.
And there is Baby Teeth Omnibus, as you mentioned, Aftershock. So it'll be interesting to see because, again, never seen a hardcover and never seen an omnibus.
I think they're starting to grow their collected editions because they're also doing Animosity, I believe, in omnibus.
Nice. So let's quickly go through some of these. If anything stands out, I don't think there's anything for me anyway. Some of the kind of Silver Age Marvel, I don't think I could ever get into them, to be honest. They're quite hard, dense reads. And unless it's Spider-Man, I don't think I'm really interested.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the Invaders references within Brubaker's Captain America, but I don't know if I could read a book like that.
I don't think I could.
Style for a longer run. That's my worry with the Teen Titans stuff, because as much as I love those characters, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to read that style of book. Because I've tried a few books. Swamp Thing was one that you mentioned earlier, the Absolutes. I got all of them. I got about 1.5 in, and it just wasn't for me. Like, it's just too much exposition and prose going on everywhere that I was flooded with information, and I'd rather just read my story. So it's just kind of like, it didn't work for me.
100%. The following week, the 16th of November, I think, Highland G, you're picking this up, Grayson. Am I right? That's the
I already have Grayson. I got it in the last print.
Nice.
Yeah, I think this is like the 3rd printing I've seen them do of this now. Yeah.
Philadelphia, the deluxe edition is something I would definitely recommend. It's one of the Image deluxe cover editions. It's kind of like vampires, but it's kind of built in about like dead ex-presidents and stuff of the US and how they're corrupt. It's actually really good and entertaining. I don't know. This is my deluxe one, so it'll be a second one to this. It's one of those ones I'm surprised it's still going, if I'm being brutally honest. Like, how much more material can they really have? But to be fair, it's been really good up to this point anyway. So yeah, that's something to look out for.
See, this kind of shows where DC has their issue with their book naming. When you look at, like, it's like Grayson, the Super Spy Omnibus. Like, that doesn't tell you what that is. What it is New 52 Part 2.
Yeah.
Like, it's really confusing. And then I think they've called the Nightwing one like Prince of Gotham or something, rather than New 52 as well.
Martin the Sinner, he's looking forward to Batman and Spawn. I'm not a Spawn guy at all. I don't know why. It looks really cool, but it just doesn't appeal to me, something I want to read. And
to be honest, that one was one I was looking at. I haven't bought it, but I was like, if I'm ever gonna check out Spawn, I'll probably read him alongside Batman. So,
but that item, it's $20, $19.99 price point. That's probably like a 6-issue mini series, mini event. I'd imagine wouldn't be too much. So yeah, but yeah, a Spawn's your thing.
Maybe when the movie oversized or not, though, it doesn't say.
it's probably not. It's DC Comics obviously releasing it, so it's probably not oversized. I wouldn't imagine. Again, nothing really here. Wolverine Omnibus Volume 2. I didn't pick up the first one, and I've no appetite to pick this one up myself. It seems a fairly light week, probably for most people, because a lot of stuff I've never even heard of, to be honest.
There's a whole bunch of Masterworks getting reprinted.
Yeah. This is the funny thing. When I first got into comics, I didn't see Masterworks anywhere, but now you see them all the time, so they're definitely getting them out there. Tomb of Dracula, to be fair, like, not Volume 2, obviously, but that would be something I'd be interested to get into. But, yeah, I wouldn't be started Volume 2, obviously. What's the difference in the two covers here, though? Do you guys know? Why is it?
I think they're just covers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the DM
like
edition.
DM variant or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. 23rd November, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm picking that up.
And I'm pretty sure Masterworks are standard sized as well. They're not oversized.
Yeah, they're just they are as a standard. Yeah. So I might pick this up. I haven't ordered it yet, but I'm going to look into it because I'm kind of on a Spidey kick where I want to pick up everything Spider-Man.
Same. Yeah. It's going to get expensive, that kick.
Yeah. We're getting an Omnibus Volume 4 at some point, like next August, I believe.
Yeah.
Many more from Power Rangers, Necessary Evil, Part 2, Deluxe. I believe that was delayed. I seen Scott today posted on Instagram he got the Go-Go Power Rangers.
Yeah, I got that yesterday, I think it was. Yeah.
This really confused me because I had both of them on pre-order at one point, and Go-Go got delayed till like January. And then this one got delayed until like November. So then I actually cancelled my Go-Go one because I was like, actually, the price is okay, but I'll probably get it cheaper somewhere else later if I have to wait that long. And then I then go Instagram and like two of the guys had their copies of Go-Go, and I was like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. So I think Forbidden Planet got a bunch in, but nobody else has.
Oh, really? Because I'm not sure if I've seen anywhere else. Again, in the American... sometimes the UK do get the books in a good few weeks before the US, which is usually like quite unheard of with other kind of forms of media.
I think it also depends on what your distribution chain is, because if you are considered a bookstore or considered a comic book store, the comic book stores get priority. So like Forbidden Planet would get treated as a comic book shop, whereas like Speedy Hen or Amazon or whatever would just get treated as a bookstore. So they get them typically a week later. That's the whole point of the DM versions, is so the DM versions go to the actual comic shops and they get it a little bit earlier. But it's strange because Forbidden Planet sells a bit of everything, but yet they still call themselves a comic shop. So
yeah, that's true. Out this week as well, I think, I don't know if Triple G's still here, but I believe these are the ones he likes, the Jim Henson storyteller.
Yeah, so I flagged that after he'd mentioned it, because I'm not sure how many there are. Again, there's no numbers on them, but I think that's the latest one. And it had something to do with a story from Japan, which of course caught my eye.
Yeah. I think he has 3. He has 3. I could be wrong. I'm not really sure how many he has, but it's also the next one. But by all means,
yeah, there's at least 2, because Triple G had at least 2 that he was showing.
Yeah. That was on your channel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
I think he showed it on his channel as well at one point.
And we have Aliens Volume 3 coming out. I'm not into the Alien stuff, to be honest. I think, again, when they bought the rights to it, they obviously kind of milked as much as they could. By all means, release the previous stuff that's went before. But just Aliens and Predator, even though the Predator one's due out soon enough, it looks more interesting. And just there's too much of it. I'm not really interested.
Well, my girlfriend's a massive Aliens fan. She's read all of this stuff in the original, little hardcovers or paperbacks or whatever kind of format. So we actually had a full kind of shelf once, like a Billy shelf, that was just all random odd sized books that were Aliens. But she cleared a bunch of them out, and she refuses to get the omnibus because they changed 2 names of characters based on licensing at one point.
Oh, really?
And then when they changed them back wrong, apparently. So she's like, she can't read it because it doesn't flow. As a fan, knowing who the people should be, it doesn't work. But if you've never read it, you wouldn't notice. So she was just really annoyed.
Yeah, I'm picking those up. Massive Alien fan, and
but I mean, the art and stuff. I mean, obviously, it's going to look great in that oversized kind of format and big collected editions. But it's just say like something I wouldn't even notice, but she's like, she watches these movies like every year, sort of diehard fan of all the different details. And when something is like key, if I can't think of something, but like imagine you took The Matrix and you renamed Neo something else, you just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah,
So
couldn't do that. Not a chance. Critical Role, that's a D&D themed game. Is that something you're into, Adam?
See, I've watched all of campaign 2, which is the Mighty Nine. I would have probably been picking these up, but I can't remember how far into it before they did the campaign 3, which is coming out now, which is what I'm focusing on. So I actually don't think I can read those without like spoilers or
See, I've never been listening to their stuff, but the books did intrigue me. I thought they were doing like library editions of like the collected years or something like that.
I think there's a lot of character focused miniseries they've done, and they're all getting library editions. I don't know if there's.
Because I thought they were kind of doing it like the Harrow County type books, where like they might come out as singular books, but then eventually they all get collected into the library editions.
Yeah, I have no idea. I just kind of ignore them because as much as I like Critical Role, I'm only really I'm knee deep in campaign 3, so which is nothing to do with the Mighty Nine. So
I just find it confusing when stuff spins off, but they don't collect it into something. I mean, that was one of the great things with the TMNT books was no matter how many spin-off stuff was there, they collected it all within the kind of the larger books. Whereas if you look at like the Power Rangers, the amount of little spin-off side books that you don't get if you just buy the main hardcovers, like it's about half the story. I mean, it's not vital parts of the story, but it's half of what the creators have created.
Mm-hmm. We read Critical Role, one of the volumes for the Nerd Herd, and
that's what made me look at it. Yeah, when Scott had suggested it there.
To be fair, like I think I'm pretty sure I enjoyed it. I just didn't score it that high because again, I think with D&D, I've kind of dipped my toe in, like really dipped my toe in the shallow end of D&D with Scott, but a year or so ago. It's just not something that. Why is it like the idea of? I don't know that much. So in terms of like all the kind of like the nods of the D&D stuff, it doesn't hit with me as I would say Scott or like say Adam or whatever. But I do recall like the story was good and the art was good, very good for I can't remember what the volume was called. It's called Critical Role Volume 1. I'm not really sure. But yeah, check out the Nerd Herd's other videos, guys, if you want to check that out. So leading into the last week of November, we've actually titles that I'm kind of interested in, and that's I can't remember what's first, Descender or Ascender came
Descender.
first.
Descender's first. Ascender's the new one, so it's nice to see they're reprinting the first 2 Descender volumes because I think they were hard to get for a while.
Yeah, well, I am tempted by these again just because there's a bit of hype about it as well, and I do like Jeff Lemire generally. So yeah,
I'd 100% recommend it. I think you'll like it. Yeah,
nice. And have you read Ascender?
No.
You be picking this one up?
Yes, we'll be picking that one up.
Nice. Highland G, have you read Eilor?
No, it's not really something. Who did you say it was by again?
Jeff Lemire.
Jeff Lemire. Yeah, so I've not really read much Jeff Lemire stuff, to be honest. Yeah. I read a few of his DC runs at various points, but I just never really connected with him. Not that I felt he was, a bad writer by any means, but I never went and just kind of picked up his catalog.
Nice. Chris is saying Super Spy by Matt Kint. Is this on this list for this week? I did see the Instagram post, and I did see Chris kind of he was loving.
Yeah, Matt Kint books seem to just pop up out of nowhere. I mean, I don't track him or in any kind of way, but I seem to just randomly see Matt Kint books just appear out of nowhere.
Again, Chris is biased. Dark Horse, of course, he's going to love it. It does look really impressive, to be fair. But with Matt Kint, did he do Mind Management?
Yes.
Yeah.
That book I think's ruined.
I just can't agree with everyone that hates that. I get that art is subjective, but like I love Mind Management, and I think that it's a stylistic thing. I don't know. I loved.
It's definitely stylistic, and it's the style I did not like. So.
Yeah. You won't probably like Super Spy then for the same reasons, but I'm picking that up.
Nice.
Yeah.
It definitely seems like that between the three of us, even though I have nothing pre-ordered, but the three of us, there's a lot of books here that's going to satisfy our kind of collecting needs and wants. And so hopefully guys in the chat and watching, you guys are the same. There's a lot of good stuff coming out the next month. Obviously coming up to Christmas time. So yeah, get your wish list filled.
And so there'll be a whole bunch of stuff that was pushed back as well, which is, you know,
Right.
kind of sitting in that kind of window of time. Because I said I've got a couple of things just I've noted down on the side here, like Good Boy Volume 2's due to come out at some point this month.
Yes, it's good, but that's the one I've read. Is that the one with the?
That's the one you read. That was the John Wick one, but it's
yes,
the dog.
that's so much fun. It's so stupid, but it's
so
really,
it's
really a lot of
three
fun.
issues of Volume 1's already out, and I've picked that one up. Volume 2's due to come out literally any time now, and they're working on Volume 3.
So basically,
it's ongoing.
It's like John Wick in reverse. So the owner gets killed by a gang, and the dog seeks revenge. It's brilliant.
So
yeah, it's
no,
really,
I've not heard of it.
It's really entertaining, really good. Recommend it. But again, it's just a trade paperback, I suppose. Maybe one day if there's 3 volumes, I would expect. Is it only press?
No, I think it's like, is it Static Press or something? But does that one? I could be wrong.
Yeah, it may be actually. It may be
Static Point Press or something like that. Something like that. It's the same people that do the Ronin book that I've got here.
Source Point Press.
Source Point Press. That's the one.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, it's just good fun. It won't let you down in any way, shape, or form. It's just really interesting. But yeah,
they seem to do about 3 issues before they bring out a trade. I've kind of figured that out now. So if there's any books that you like and you don't necessarily want to buy a ton of singles, you could just buy the first issue and then hold off for the trade or that kind of thing. So that's what I've started doing. But I've liked quite a lot of their ones recently. Because I picked up the little Red Ronin book, and then when I actually just got in yesterday, it's called like Postmasters or something like that. It's a black and white book. I've not read it yet, but I think it's like a dystopian future type thing, and it's a European sort of wider book as well.
Nice, excellent.
But they're all pretty decent price. There's like $2-3 quid a trade. Sorry, an issue. Even though they are slightly bigger issues.
That's the small publisher, I suppose. They can do that without charging all the kind of overheads that Marvel and DC and the bigger ones would. Folks, we'll wrap this up for now. I mean, I know Adam. I think was TMNT the last Ronin your last video. Do you have anything planned or?
I have no plans. Well, I have some plans, but they won't materialize for a while, and maybe not even on my channel. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Well, I will wait and no anticipations.
Yes.
Again, I asked you guys on for the first one because I like what you do and I like having these chats. Highland G, do you have anything coming up you want to kind of shout out there?
So I believe my next video should be Baby Teeth. So I've basically done the 2 books together, and that should be coming out Sunday. And I've got, I think, maybe 1 more horror book scheduled after that, and then I'm kind of back to the usual kind of stuff from there. I am hoping at some point over the next maybe few weeks to try and get another unhaul on the go, and maybe even look towards doing a shelf tour, which I've not done in 2 years.
Nice.
But we'll see how time allows for that.
I like those videos. Yeah, definitely. Look forward to that. Yeah, I've listed everyone's details in the description below, well, their Instagram and their YouTube. I'm sure you guys check the Highland G and Coming Bound out anyway, if you do with us, because we all kind of hang in the same kind of circles online. So thanks very much for you two for joining me in this first ever full. I say full because I didn't expect to fill an hour. Here we are, 2 hours, 13 minutes, and I'm delighted.
Time gets away from you, man.
100%. But I enjoy these chats, and I do intend to do this every month, all being well. Inspiration from things like the Omnibus, Fangirls. What's the Australian one? Aussie-verse is another good one I like to watch. So yeah, it's like
that.
It's handy for you if you're working from home in the UK. It's handy because they're live in our morning time. It's really good, really interesting.
Yeah, because I watched the Omnibus and I've watched Omnidog's own streams, but he doesn't do it like on a weekly basis or anything. It's just as and when.
Yeah. And even like BJ Kicks as well. The problem with the American ones is that we're all should be in bed by the time they're live, so don't get a chance to participate in the chat. But like I say, the Aussie-verse ones that they're on early morning for us. So we should, or we could be awake for that, which is good. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me. I'll hopefully make this a monthly thing. There are always a few other folk within the community have said that they would like to come on, and yeah, looking forward to that. And that is what all the Omnifuss is all about. So thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, guys.